better. You go chop it, but those different is different.
Okay, can everybody hear me okay?
I can. We can in Portland.
Seattle, can you guys hear me okay, guys? So Portland's good. Seattle, can you guys hear me out there? Rylan, Alex, everybody?
Here's something coming from somewhere.
The bottom, just put the bottom down, just yeah.
Cam, can you hear me out there, buddy? Cam?
Yeah. No, we got
Okay. Good. I don't, and Seattle, you guys can hear me now, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Well, good morning. So again, my apologies, guys. Ari, you guys should be getting that that banner tomorrow, okay?
Sounds good.
So all right. Let's go ahead and get started. Again, my apologies, guys. I'll make this quick for you guys today. I want to start out with, first off, a couple updates on some things. You know, one of the things I talked about, I've talked about in training is one of the hardest things to do is to get reps to do homework, right? You got to be able to research your competitor, stuff like that. So in the course of researching things, Portland, I think it was actually Shadow that did it. Shadow was able to find out that as of now, Milgard, as of right now, is the only fiberglass window company that can actually make a round top in actual fiberglass. It appears that it is their most expensive product. But the point is, though, is now there is a fiberglass product that can be made in a round top. But as of right now, the Marvin Infinity and the Duracast product through Pella, they still cannot as of now. So it's only Milgard. So for you, Mark, down there in Texas, it's not going to matter. Milgard's not in Texas at all. So you won't have to worry about that. We won't have to worry about that here. But one of the pros and cons to that, of course, the pro is that they can now do it. But the con is it's also their most expensive application. If everything is the way I would think that it is, then that means the average round top is probably going to be coming in somewhere around the $4,000 range. It wouldn't surprise me if it was as high as almost $5,000, but it would be very surprising to me if it's under $3,000, which I'm pretty sure it wouldn't be. But it is nice to know now, though, that there is an application that way. So we now know, and we can go ahead and talk about that cost when we happen to run across that, especially for our Portland and Seattle areas that deal with Milgard quite a bit. So good looking on that, Shadow. That was Shadow that found that, correct?
Yep.
Good job, Shadow.
Okay. So good looking on that.
Yes.
Okay. So good looking out for that. Another reason, ladies and gentlemen, that we should constantly be looking at our competitor, because this industry does change, and it changes early and it changes often. So to make sure that we're keeping up with what our competitor has, so as we can continue to know how to pitch or pivot in different directions when certain things come up, is a really good thing. Okay. So that being said, I want to get past for a minute, because I at least want to start introducing that, and let's start working on it. I want to start working today, and we'll get back into the pre-close and overcoming certain things. But I want to start getting in your guys' heads right now about price presentation, which is going to be the close, which is our step 8. Okay. So I would assume that everybody right now presents price the same way, right? So somebody correct me if I'm wrong. We're all using the same sheet that has this, correct? We're all using that?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm assuming everybody on this call also knows how to price by now. You all know how to figure out how to get a price. Is that correct? Is there anybody that does not?
We haven't worked on that with Tanner yet.
We haven't worked. Okay. So other than a couple people in Portland, which I imagine that's only going to be Tanner and Diana, it appears that everybody else does. Cam, you guys are all good there too, correct? All right.
Guys know this part?
Yeah, we have it
In
like
Seattle, they don't.
we have it down, but like somewhat, but it's our numbers, the numbers application. For some reason, it's not working on that computer. Yeah, exactly how it's. But
You can calculate it.
yeah, other than that,
Okay.
I don't know.
Right.
Okay. So I guess some of this stuff hasn't been covered with some of you guys yet. But it was supposed to be, so we'll go ahead and catch you up on some of this. So let's bring a couple rules in that I would sit there and say. Number one, when we're looking at pricing, first off, and we're figuring out price, okay, and we're going to put our margin in, we want to start with a margin of about 42 to 44% bare minimum. Bare minimum. We want to keep about a 44% margin. Okay. So what would that mean for some of you? Okay. We're going to assume right now, and if somebody pull a calculator out for me so they can do this math. So if we have a window that is $800 is what our par is on that window. Okay, hold on. It looks like my marker's now not wanting to work. If we have a window, par in our window is, let's say, $800, and that's par. What we want to do is we want to add a bare minimum, let's just call it for right now, 44%. What would that cost of the window be, somebody, please?
$14.29.
$14.29. So at $14.29, that's with a 44% margin. We basically want to show, so if we have 10 of these windows, then we're going to be showing a price. If we have 10 windows like this, we're showing a price of $14,290. This is the price that we're going to want to make sure that we're putting in front of a customer. And I'll walk our way how we're going to go ahead and do that. What I want to explain is why. Number one, we have to give ourselves an opportunity to be able to sell at a 44% margin. Okay. We have to get past, as a company, we have to get past the fact that we need to put our best quote unquote deal in front of the company, in front of the customer. That's bullshit. We got to get past that. Okay. We got to get past that. Everybody on this phone call that is out here selling windows deserves more than what you're currently getting now or what you've gotten before. You deserve more. At the very least, you deserve the opportunity to make more. Okay. At this cost right here per window, as a rep, as a senior, you're making about $300, just for round numbers sake. You're making about $300 a window. Whereas if we continue to keep selling at these 30 and 31 and 32% margins, you're making $120 and $130 a window. Well, that's ridiculous. First off, that's ridiculous. Everybody here on this call is worth a hell of a lot more than that. That's ridiculous. Okay. That's number one. Number two, customer has no idea what we can or cannot sell something for. Our job is not to go in there and think with the customer's wallet. Our job is to sit there and do the best presentation we can give the best information that we can give without lying, cheating, or stealing, and then put a price in front of them that the customer believes is a fair and an honest price. Okay. How do we know that a customer will or will not believe that $14,290 is fair and honest if we don't put it in front of them to find out. That's number one. So first and foremost, in this case here, I want everybody here making more money. Unless somebody on this phone call is independently wealthy, the only reason why you guys work here is because you're looking for more friends and you want to make more friends, then that's a different story. Okay. Beyond that, I'm have to assume here that everybody's looking to sit there and get paid. That's what I have to assume. Number two, for those of most of you will be familiar with this conversation, some of you will not. Okay. When it comes to financing, if we have to finance something, the interest rates that we have are lower interest rates than the banks have, but we have to pay for those interest rates. We pay for those things in the form of what we call a dealer fee or a merchant fee. Dealer fee, merchant fee, tomato, same thing. Okay. What that basically means is a certain program with a lower interest rate hypothetically may have a dealer fee of 15%. What that means is this. If you have a dealer fee, a merchant fee or a dealer fee of 15%, if you sell a deal for $20,000 and your dealer fee is 15%, 15% of 20 grand is $3,000. You subtract the 3,000 from the 20. As a company, we only collect 17,000, not the 20. That's your dealer fee. Okay. You have to hold more margins in order to go ahead and cover those dealer fees so that the margins turn out on the back end to be good margins. So when you're selling something at 40% or 44% margin, by the time the dealer fees and everything come out and we collect our money, you didn't really sell that, as far as the company is concerned, at a 44% margin. You're closer to about 36 or 35, 33% margin. Okay. So in order to go ahead and use certain plans to keep all plans available to us, we want to make sure that we can start out with a dollar amount that we can sell anything. Okay. If you're at a 35 or a 36% margin and that's where you start, then most programs that we have inside of our Green Sky Now, we're not going to be able to use, because by the time you use them, it's going to take the job under. So we have to give ourselves a chance to be able to sell those programs, to be able to get those deals. If it is going to be a cash deal, we can always go down a little more if we need to. But again, you don't sit there and you don't get married if you don't ask the question. We have to give the customer the opportunity to tell us yes. We just have to. Apax's challenge is we've always given everybody the cheapest price we can give because we're too busy at the door telling everybody that we're going to give them a 58.5% discount. Therefore, reps go in the house and try to get the cheapest price they can possibly sit there and get. And there's no margin in things. Now, I can get into a lot more other conversation as to why margins are important. But for right now, we'll just leave it at that as you guys learn more. So when we're presenting price and we're starting to calculate price out, first and foremost, you want to be at a bare minimum about 42 to 44% margin. I would be at 44 if it's me, because the difference in price from a 44% margin, 42% margin isn't squat. So what we saw a minute ago, Cody, do some math for me here. Give me an $800 par and a 42% margin, please.
1379.
So what we're talking about here, the difference in 44% to 42% is literally $50. That's it. That's a $500 bill for every 10 windows. Okay. So starting out at a 44% margin versus the 42, you're not going to take it. You're not taking anybody's head off, guys. We're not ripping anybody off. The thing about renewal or about Apex, and this is the one thing about Apex I will say is gangster as hell. How we present price. Okay. We present price, and this is some gangster shit. Renewal by Andersen is pretty gangster in a lot of things that they do, and even they don't do this. We walk into a house and we tell a customer, hey, look, Renewal by Andersen for your 10 windows is going to be $50,000. Pella is going to sit there and be $39,000. Company whatever is going to be whatever. We actually show other window company prices in our price presentation. That's gangster like a son of a gun, let me tell you. That's gangster as all get out. I have never in my life seen a company do that before. That's wicked as hell as far as I'm concerned. That's wicked as hell. Okay. So we look at these prices and we talk about, oh my God, look at how expensive they are and all this. But here's the thing. Renewal by Andersen sells at this price. People are buying windows, 10 windows at 50 grand. They're buying those windows. Pella is selling 10 windows for $39,000. At our 10 windows, we can come in at 17, 18 grand. They're already getting a hell of a deal if we were selling at a 50% margin. They're already getting a hell of a deal. They're already getting one. Why do we have to make sure we're giving the cheapest price we can give? That doesn't make sense. Give yourselves a chance to make more dough because everybody on this call is worth that. You guys are worth it. You're worth it. And if you don't think you are, then you call me and I will talk your freaking ear off until you believe that you are worth more money. I can promise you that. Okay. So first and foremost, when we're figuring out price, we want to start out with about a 44% margin. This is where we're going to start. So basically the way I price up is this. I'm going to leave out all the Renewal by Andersen stuff and all that shit for right now. Let's just work on our column right now. Okay. Number one, the one of the prices that we want to show is quote unquote fair market value. Typically, when I talk about fair market value for a triple pane window, I show that window at about an average cost of $3,100 to $3,300 per unit. Okay. That's what I do. And I can get away with that in a lot of these places I've been to because that's pretty much where it's at. Okay. At Dream Style Remodeling, where I just came from, an average window, which is 36 by 60, double hung window, our retail cost before discounts was about $3,343. That's where we were at. Okay. Capstone here in Phoenix, they retail at about $3,100 and something for a triple pane product and their double pane product. But triple pane primarily, along with a couple of other companies, they're all over $3,000 and none of them can sell their window for less than $2,000. So that's the number I use. Each location will be different. So I would try to find out what that is. So fair market value to me, we're going to be talking about 10 windows right now. And we're just going to say everything standard sizes. Let's keep everything weird out of it. So for me, I'm going to show a fair market value in this case here of about $33,000. That's what I show. From there, the next price I'm going to put down, this will be, I guess we could call it step one. Number two, from there, what I do is I show a sweep price. When I show sweep, I use a 60% margin is what I use, is 60. So do me a favor, Cody. Give me 60% on $800.
2,000.
$2,000. So that means that 20 windows, 20,000. What I call this price, instead of sweep to the customer, I call this price the 1 year guaranteed price. This is the price that's going to be good for a year. Remember what we're telling the customers. We told the customer that we're going to go ahead and give them that low price that we were talking about. And at the same time, we are not able to partner with them. We're going to go ahead and give them a price that's going to be good for a year. This is what I show. Okay. Now, part of the reason I show that is for a couple reasons. Number one, if a customer calls me back within a year, chances are if our prices have gone up, they're not going to go up enough that's going to exceed this. So I'm going to be able to go back and give them that same price. In the last week and a half to 2 weeks, I've already heard a couple people call back and sit there and say, hey, look, what do I do? This customer is calling back and they felt that they should have gotten this price because they were told that we would be able to come back at this price, even though we were there 11 months ago or 16 months ago or whatever it may be. Well, our prices have drastically changed. And at the same time, back then when that selling was going on, we were leaving the cheapest price we could leave. So by leaving this with this kind of margin in it, if a customer calls back within the year to take advantage of that, we're going to be good. At the same time, if they call me back and say, look, I still want to go with you, but I still want to work on this price. This is a little too high. Again, in theory, we should have the room to be able to go out there and come back down and still stay within our margins. So that's the reason why I use a 60% margin. I use a 60% margin to be able to calculate my 1 year price. From there, then I'm going to show our promotional price, which is going to be the 44%. So in this case here, I'm showing a price of $14,290. This is promo. This is what a 44% margin. Okay.
Do you write that on that same right column, or would you write that at the bottom of it? Like, you know, is it going like here?
No.
Or is it going down here?
Yes.
Still
No,
over
I
here?
put it here. Yeah, I put it here. I put it here because it's bigger here. Truth be told, if you guys want to really, really know the truth, I'm kind of bullshitting you guys on this way. When I actually price, I put the 3 companies here, whoever that may be. And then I actually use a separate form completely to go ahead and do all this, to be honest with you. I'm just didn't want to sit there and do it here because I don't want to sit there and mess with anybody's head right now. As far as, you know, we don't have that. I've never seen that. And it weird anybody out because this is already going to weird people out as it is anyway. Putting these kind of numbers up is already going to weird folks out. So God's honest truth, I actually have card stock that I use to present this information here, but it'll still work on here though. You can still do it. Okay. So when I'm done once I have this, then I do this, and this is what my form actually will have is okay. I'm going to put some hypothetical numbers up here real quick. Again, just hypothetics. Okay. So when I'm explaining a price to a customer, I basically do it this way. Mr. and Mrs. Customer, as we've talked about when it comes to triple pane product, fair market value for triple pane product for this area, in this case for your 10 windows, is going to be about $33,000. Okay. The price that we're going to go ahead and that we're going to give you that's good for a year, and what you do with it's going to be up to you. We can actually go ahead and do this for $20,000 anytime between now and a year from now. However, with all the promotional ads and everything that we have going on and the promotional pricing we can do, use your house to do this and do that. What you're looking at is a price today of $14,290. Now, there's a couple different ways to pay for this. Number one is our cash option. Cash option is 30% down, 60% when the product comes in and it's scheduled for installation, and 10% upon completion. Or you can take advantage of our monthly investment with your $2,000 down. You're looking at a monthly investment of $500 a month. That's with an interest rate of 9.9% for 36 months. That is basically what I say almost every single time, and I throw it out in front of them this way. Okay. First and foremost, I understand that we don't have a 9.9% for 36 months. I get it. I know we don't. Customer ain't going to buy here anyway. And if they do buy here anyway, and they want to finance it, we're going to give them a cheaper interest rate to begin with anyway. We're just going to. All right. We have to start at higher numbers, because if you don't, and you start at the lower stuff to begin with, if you do that, then a customer is going to want to negotiate off of that. And then you're going to have to start dropping your britches, or we don't have any lower interest rate. All this is part of negotiating too when we start trying to walk these customers through financing. Okay. So you have to be able to start somewhere. All right. We have to be able to start somewhere. So when we present price, this is how we want to present price. Okay. This is what we want to do. I don't care if a customer gives you an offer. You still want to be at this 44% margin. If they give you a price and say, look, I'll do all 10 windows without you even pricing up. If you do it for 13,000, I'll do it. You still are going to be here no matter what. Still, you stay here. Because if they're offering 13 and you're at 14,290, then let's meet in the middle then. This way you still, again, make more dough. Okay. And again, the customer is still getting a good deal. Our pricing is fantastic, people. It's fantastic. This is fantastic pricing. You know, for some of you, I understand that it doesn't seem that way because Apex is all you know. But, you know, my man out there, you know, dude, you've been gone for so long now, I can't remember your damn name, man. I am so sorry, bro. I feel like a dick.
Norm.
What is Norm? Oh, that's right.
Norm.
Cheers. God, I should have remembered that. Norm from Cheers. You know, I got Norm over there in Salt Lake City thinking, oh my God, I can actually sell windows for $1,600 a piece. That's crazy. At Renewal by Andersen, you can't sell a door lock for $1,600. The thought of selling something at Renewal by Andersen costs somebody $1,600. You know? So these prices that we've put out, even at a 44% margin, are so good, it's not even funny. They're so good. And on top of that, we're triple pane on top of that. That's even better. Okay. So
And we get
this
the
is
discounts for the, and we get all the discounts for the energy rebates.
right.
Renewal doesn't even
Okay.
post any of that.
So this is where we want to be. We figure out our pricing, and this is what we put on paper, just like this. Fair market value, 1 year guaranteed price, promotional pricing. Here's what we can do. 2 ways to pay for it. cash option, 30% down, 60%, 10%, or a monthly investment of here or here and here. We do not show anything up front other than this. This is it. This is it. Excuses, and notice I use the word excuse. Excuses of, well, I didn't show that because the customer doesn't want to make payments. I don't care what they want. It does not matter what they want. Just because they don't want to make payments doesn't mean we're not allowed to put it in front of them. We still got to put it in front of them. They still have to be able to sit there and see it. They have to. They still have to be able to see it. Okay? In a perfect world, nobody wants to make payments. I get it. But you still got to put it in front of them. And it's all part of negotiating when we have to sit there and get into the negotiation part. Okay? And there is going to be some negotiation. There is no doubt. There's going to be. But what you'll be surprised is right now, of the 5 locations that are on here, for the little bit of business that Phoenix sells, Phoenix probably has the highest margins right now. Average margin right now is running about 41.6% in Phoenix. Right now, after that, it's Seattle. Seattle's pushing right at 40%. They're about 39.8% right now, average margin. Okay. All of which is 10% plus higher than what it used to be. Okay. But what they're finding out, like in Seattle especially, is they're putting these kind of prices in front of people, and people are saying yes. Hell, we've already said that what Kate sold one the other day with a 53.8% margin. 53. And all she did is put it in front of them to sit there and see if they would say yes or not. And lo and behold, they said yes. Not only did they say yes, then actually made the comment, we actually would have paid more. So that's one hell of a deal. They don't know if they're getting a hell of a deal or not, guys, if we don't put it in front of them. Okay. So let's get past the price thing. And let's get past the fact that customers need a cheaper price. Price is not the issue. You got to get that out of your head. Price is not the issue. If price was the issue, Renewal by Andersen would be out of business. Period. They would be out of business. If price was the issue, Pella would be out of business. Mercedes would be out of business. Lamborghini and Ferrari would be out of business. People are still buying that kind of product, even in an expensive world the way we are today. That's still being sold. So let's get past price. Will price be an issue for a person or two here and there? Sure it will. And we'll deal with that if we can and when we do. Okay. So here's where we want to be right now. Any questions about this as to why this, why that? What are your guys' thoughts? For this part, there should be a lot of questions here. If there's not, I'm going to be very shocked. So what questions do we have so far?
With the
Fire
cash
away.
one, do you show just do you say 30% down, 60, 10, blah, blah, blah? Or like, would you actually write out what that is for this, say this project? Like $4,500 down, you know?
You can do either one, Cody. I actually do either one. I'll do 30, 60, 10, or I'll put the dollar amount. At that time, you know, it kind of depends on how I feel at that time. But you could do either one, Cody. You can do either one.
And then would you, I know you don't normally price present on this price presentation sheet like here, and you use the other sheet, but on ours, if we are doing it all on the one sheet, the cash and financing sections, would you still have those? Like, would you maybe put those, you put those like, kind of how Shadow did his, like here? Do you like leaving that down there for other stuff, or would you put them down there kind of like I did?
No, for me, I try to keep, I would on here, because before I started using my other sheet, when I was using this, I put the 3 prices and everything here. And then I actually used this portion of it, if you guys can see this. use this portion here to do this part here. This is what I would do. So right here, I put the fair market value. Right here, where I put the 60%, and then here I put promotional. And then I use this area here like this for the rest, because I'm going to need this when I start crossing things out. So I need more space. That's also why I went back to my other old sheet, but I need the space here because nobody says that I have to stay within these boxes, right? I could write all over this if I want to.
Yeah, we
So-
don't live in the box.
That's what I would do here. I put the 30, 60, 90 here, and then the cash op or the finance options right here. So that's
Okay.
what I would do.
And then the
Okay.
last question I had, and then I'm sure other people have questions too, but you know, you have the 2,000, I think that says 2,000 down, right?
Yes.
Okay, and obviously none of our financing plans require any money down, but you still put that on there again regardless, so that you can later on then say, well, what if we could do no money down? And that looks more attractive, right?
I do it for that reason too. The other reason why I do it is because how many times, have we financed something where you're trying to go ahead and get, I don't know, sell a $20,000 project with zero money down, but the bank comes back at a $17,000 offer. Okay. Well, in this case here, if I'm asking for $2,000 down, which is 10%, if I'm asking for $2,000 down and the bank comes back at a $17,000 offer, now I can sit there and tell the customer, hey, look, unfortunately, we were only going to be able to get this much of this deal secured. But if you can put only an additional $1,000 more down, then I can go ahead and get this thing pushed through, as opposed to asking for zero down and then having to ask for $3,000.
Yeah,
Okay.
that makes way better.
So I do it for those two reasons. Number one, to find out what monies do we have or not have right now. So this way, if I drop down to the 0% or 0% down or zero down, that's awesome. Or like I said, if the bank doesn't quite give me the whole amount and they are able to do this, I don't have to sit there and try to pull money pull money from them now. Okay.
Yep, no, that makes sense.
Does that
Thank
make
you.
sense, everybody? You're welcome. Okay. So
Gary,
the trick,
can I ask?
here's what, hold on real quick, Miss Pebbles. One more thing. When you're doing the pricing here and you're showing payment, when you are, even though we're using $2,000 down and we're technically financing 18,000, you still want to show a payment of a payment at $20,000. Don't show the 18. Show it as if there's no money down. You want to show that payment, not the payment on 18,000. Show it on the whole dollar amount. As we go through this, you'll understand why here in a minute. In a little bit, you'll understand why. Okay. Go ahead, Pebs. I'm sorry.
I have two questions, and if one of them doesn't apply right now, you can just answer it later. First question is, do you include tax? I mean, we have 10% at least tax here, so would you include tax in your final numbers?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And my second probably pertains to later, but sometimes people ask me, can we have a breakdown, like how much of that is labor and how much of that is product and things like that? Well, how would you, we've been told not to show breakdowns or things like that, but.
Well, I disagree with that for companies that say that, because the Disclosure Act says we're supposed to explain everything. Okay. That's what the Disclosure Act says. So there's a couple different ways you can go about this. What I would sit there and tell you is that, and let them know, hey, look, in Arizona, I have to explain it differently. For example, in Arizona, no matter what you pay in labor, no matter what, if all I paid is $1 a window to install, Arizona law says that a project like this, 35% of that project is considered labor. Whether I'm paying $1 or not does not matter. So a job that's 10 grand, that means 3,500 of that is going to be labor. So all you got to do is sit there and let them know yourself. I would be transparent as hell here if it was me. Everybody's paying a bare minimum of about 185 bucks per window minimum in labor. So I would probably tell the customer, look, you want to know what labor cost is? Give or take on this dollar amount, folks. You're looking at about 220, 250 bucks a unit, 300 bucks a unit in labor. That's what you're looking at.
Okay.
I don't have a problem saying that. Okay. Because when somebody looks at this and say, well, wait a minute, that's $1,100 then. Well, right. Again, cost of the product and all this, it is what it is. I don't have to defend any margin or anything. It is what it is. The cost is what the cost is, especially in our case when we're coming in with a hell of a price as it is anyway. So I disagree with anybody that says you can't not to break down the labor because the Disclosure Act says we're supposed to. When we're asked,
Thank you.
the Disclosure Act says so.
Okay, yeah, I think I was never educated really on how much the labor would be, you know, in terms of, so that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, if everybody here was using 250, something like that, I would do that. And with stucco, if you have a stucco house. So if this is what I would use as labor, if you guys want to write this down. If you're at a house with steel casements, typically labor on steel casements is going to be higher. So I would tell the customer that we're paying about that labor on that's about $375 per unit to remove and rehang and put windows in. If it was casements. At the same time, too, if it was on a stucco house, stucco, I would sit there and use somewhere between 275 and 300 a unit. Everything else beyond that, probably closer to 225, 250. And if you're using those numbers there, no matter what city you live in, you're gonna be about on par, no matter what city you live in. That's pretty standard, really, across the industry. And of course, bigger windows would come in at a little bigger price point. Doors are going to come in at a bigger price point. You know, usually for doors, you're adding a couple $100 a window more, or a couple $100 a door more. You know, so as a rule, that's what I would use. Okay, as a rule, that's what I would use.
This one is, well.
Okay, but again, to be a good company and to be, you know, to be good people, really, if we follow the law like we're supposed to, the Disclosure Act does say we're supposed to tell people. So why not just tell them? It's a lot easier for us to do that than a company like, say, like Renewal by Andersen, because Renewal by Andersen is so expensive as it is anyway. To make the labor make sense on something like that, they would have to be showing labor of $700, $800, $900 a window, which everybody in the world knows that's BS, and they know that. So all of a sudden, that puts them in a little different kind of situation. But in our case, because of our prices, showing a couple $200 to $300 in labor, and the window itself is $1,100. There are a lot of things too, guys, that you can explain to a customer. So, wow, that's $1,100 a window. Well, and it might be, but that doesn't mean that the window costs $1 either. Not only do you have the cost of the product itself, you have the shipping cost that comes with it. You got the tax cost that comes with it. You got the disposal fees that come along with it, you know, kind of like changing oil, right? There's X amount of percentage of what you pay for is for the disposal fee of your oil. There's a disposal fee for all of the product, the old product that we're taking out. You know, there's the wear and tear on the vehicles and all this other bullshit crap. So we can certainly justify our price because we're not gouging anybody at all. I mean, we're not gouging at all in any way, shape, or form. Okay. But for sure, without counting trim or anything like that, we're paying on average about $185 per unit right now across the country not counting all the little adders that we're supposed to be adding in, like the trim around the window on the inside, the wood trim, or having to sit there and do stuff on the outside where we're having to put wood around masonite paneling or whatever it may be. Okay. But we're right at about 185 a unit, and we're right at about 350 minimum to $400 per door in labor. So when you start adding all that in, that's what I use.
I have a follow-up question to that, just it's not really related specifically to the financing language here or anything, but in the past, Apex did not want us breaking down, not even if it's not the labor, because I don't know if I've ever had customers that were like, I want to see exactly what like the window material cost and labor is, maybe once or twice. Generally what they want to see is I want to see the individual unit cost. You're showing me 10 windows, I've got 4 double hungs, I've got 3 picture windows and a couple specialty windows, whatever, and a door. They want to sometimes see that number broken down, and Apex would not technically let us show that breakdown before. Do you have issues showing them that? Are you cool with that? Thoughts there?
Again, my thoughts are always going to be what the law says. And the law says that if a customer asks, the Disclosure Act says we're supposed to tell them. That's just the way that it is.
To follow up on that, I think what Cody's referring to, correct me if I'm wrong, but like, the way Pellet will give quotes to homeowners, it has the price per unit with the specs, details, and everything. So for the more technical, analytical homeowners, they can actually do a cross study, and that's essentially what they're looking for. I know RBA doesn't typically do that when they present fiber X, and we've never done that. But how would you handle that type of objection if we can't provide that?
Well, I would tell them exactly what it is, sir. To be honest with you, here's what it is. Literally, our windows are bucketed based on size. So a window that's a 24 by 24 inch window versus a window that's a 36 by 60 inch window, God's honest truth, folks, it costs the same. That's what it costs. So because all of your windows are under 100 United inches, I can literally take that divided by into that. That's going to tell you what each window cost is, folks. That's what it is. That is exactly how we price. They're going to tell you, well, that doesn't make sense. Smaller windows should cost less. Depends on how you're looking at it. You can look at it and say, wow, I'm having to sit there and pay so much for this little bitty window like I am the big window. Or what we can sit there and say is, wow, I'm only paying this much for a big window because look what a window really costs. There's 2 ways to look at that. Okay. So that's what I would do. But we have to tell them if they ask, because it's the right thing to do. So we have to tell them. So I would be very transparent. Be very transparent with them. In the end, we're still giving them a hell of a price. And in the end, that's all that really matters. That's all that it really matters. So you'll get some people that'll tell you, well, that sucks, that I shouldn't be paying. I get that. But nonetheless, this is where we're at. This is where we're at. If this is what's going to keep you from buying windows because you want to stand on some kind of moral that really doesn't matter and it shouldn't, cool. Then here's where we're at. But this is the reality. So that's what I would do, Jimmy and Cody, is just tell them. I do now. I've been asked before, can I get a breakdown? Look, in this case, folks, this is easy. You got 6 windows. They're all under 96 United or 100 United inches. Here's what a United inch means. It's the width plus the height of the product. So a window that's 50 inches wide by 50 inches tall, that's 100 United inches. All the windows cost exactly the same. And the first thing that Miss Lopez said is, well, that doesn't make sense. I said, right. But nonetheless, this is still where we're at, though. You're still getting a good price. You're still this, you're still this. We certainly can't sit there and say, well, that's not right. Something's weird. That doesn't matter, folks. Either you think the price is fair and honest or you don't. This is where we're at. And you just got to hit them between the eyes because any other story we give beyond that is not the truth. And for the most part, guys, I'm not going to teach you to lie. I'm certainly not going to encourage it. But at the same time, too, that's what we're supposed to do.
If anybody wants a good word track, the way I always explain it, I was like, I get it. It doesn't make sense initially, but when you think about it, it's not the raw material cost. That's the biggest cost of the window. It's spot on the assembly line. it's the labor to pick it up and inspect it, to put the locks on, put it on the truck, the spot on the truck. And it doesn't matter if it's a tiny window or a giant window, all of that is exactly the same. The only thing that changes is the raw material costs, and that's not the biggest cost associated with any window. And then most people are like,
Sure.
oh yeah, total sense. So it's a good word track if anyone wants to use that.
It is. That's great word track. The amount of effort is the same, whether it's a 6 foot by 6 foot window versus a 3 foot by 3 foot window. So the effort and everything's the same. That's a good way to put it, Cody. That's a good way to put it. What other questions do we have here so far before we keep going? Anything? If there's something you guys don't like here, something that makes you uncomfortable, you need to speak up. So as we can try to talk our way through this, because you might not be the only one feeling that way, especially for those veterans that this is going to be different for. Okay. So questions about any of this. Mark, go ahead.
Yes, Terry, if you wouldn't mind doing a full mock-up of how you would use that price presentation sheet, just all the way through to the end. And then if we can record you going through that. I mean, even if we just have the camera facing straight on the paper with your voice in the background, we can see your hand where you're moving the pen to point to certain things. I think that'd be helpful overall, because getting ingrained and doing it a different way for so long, and then looking at it in this way, and it all makes sense, and I like the way it presents. Just seeing how it would look all finished on paper and how we get there would be helpful, I think.
Okay.
Obviously that's not today, but just if like we can get a recording of that sent out, I think that'd be helpful.
Yeah, obviously not today.
Obviously not today, but someday.
Obviously not today, but someday. Well, I can do it one of a couple different ways, guys. I can actually do what Mark is asking, or I can erase this and I can put 4 columns on here right now and do it that way too. It's up to you.
Do that.
Do it, go for it.
Will that work, Marky Mark?
That'll work.
And so
So what he's doing is he's job.
okay, there's my sheet of paper. If you want it to be exact, Mark, here we go. How about this? Can you guys see that?
No,
Imagine that. I'm just being a smart ass. So
this is my house, my test sheet. So if I go from 42 to 50, I'm $3,000 job. But 45 is not.
Never done that. That's probably not really.
Usually.
47.
This is all I've done this.
And that's just a second.
48. It's a terrible. Yeah, 45.
No, it's
Finance. Oh, I don't finance.
I'll do it, but I.
Oh.
Turn it off.
That just when I have a water tower.
Yeah.
When I do
And
close
it's
the
the
TV
same
now,
thing we
I
have
don't
in the house.
have.
Let's see.
I can't even squeeze it.
Right there.
I was gonna ask, what about?
What would you call it, according to finance? I don't know what that is.
With the fair market here, just what I'm still doing hours. RVA, Noga, that wasn't price, average, to get the fair market.
But this would feel like, I feel like my eyes are like.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys ready?
Like I'm missing that. Construction.
50's a little.
Can everybody see this?
Yes, we can.
Do pellet, if somebody's kind of or know about pellet.
Can everybody see this right now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm trying to sound like Coat, or I'm trying to be like Shadow and my man Rylan over there with the big old deep voice and them. I feel like the midget Barry White now. Okay, so this is how I'll usually write it up. For me, when I'm presenting a price, I want to try to show a Fibrex price. I want a fiberglass price, and if I can, I want to make sure I'm getting a vinyl window price in there as well. So we have some things to be able to compare to, okay? So usually I'll write it up this way. Renewal by Anderson. So here's how my presentation looks like. Okay, so Mr. and Mrs. Pelessier, here's what we got right now, okay? Couple different things for you so we can go ahead and keep things to where we get to see full transparency of everything. Number one, a project like this for your 10 windows. Basically what we're looking at right now is this. We are going to custom build, deliver, and install 10 vinyl windows, all in triple pane glass, all with argon gas, all with high performance low E coating, all with a lifetime warranty, all in the color of white, okay? What you're looking at for Renewal by Anderson on a project like this with their Fibrex material, you're going to be looking at about $45,000 as we saw earlier. Same time, too, Pellets fiberglass product, you're coming in at about $32,000. And Capstone, again, another real good company, for their triple pane vinyl product, you're going to be looking at about $30,000. In our case here, fair market value says that this triple pane product should be about 33. So Capstone coming in at 30 is actually pretty good, because they're actually going to be about $3,000 lower than fair market value. However, with our 1 year guaranteed price, and what you do with it for that 1 year is going to be up to you, you're looking at a total cost of $20,000. And as promised, your promotional pricing, what we can go ahead and do it for right now, as long as we're able to go in and invest in your home, okay, we're going to be able to do this project for $14,290. Couple different ways to go ahead and pay for this. Option A is a cash option, which would be 30% down, 60% when we schedule your installation, and then the additional 10% you pay at the end of the installation, at the completion of installation. However, you can also choose to take advantage of the monthly investments that we have. So with your $2,000 down, you'd only be looking at $500 a month. That would be at an interest rate of only 9.9% for 36 months. And then that's what I would put in front of them. From there, we'll figure out where we need to go from there based on how this conversation goes, or what it is that we need to start pushing to get this conversation going. That's how I present that. It's just like this. Any questions about this part at all?
This all makes sense and stuff, but you know, going back to the 9.9% interest at 36 months. I know it's a privileged position, but it makes me feel a little queasy. And I'm probably not the only one, so I figured I'd just go ahead and say it out loud.
Very cool. What makes you feel queasy about it?
Because we don't actually offer that.
Right. Well, we're not going to sell that anyway, so it doesn't matter, does it?
I guess it doesn't, but it just, it feels innately dishonest to me. It feels like a car salesman kind of it gives me a funny feeling.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. What do you think you should be showing there?
Well, I mean, if we were gonna be throwing out real payment options, you know, we're already giving them a hell of a deal, like we keep saying. The 7.9% for 84 months. It doesn't give you that much to move down from, but that's something that we actually do offer in our Green Sky bucket. It doesn't make
Okay.
the impact, I'm not gonna be able to do the halvesies thing like you did before, but
I mean, Michelle, he never said that this was a green sky plan. You could go with the monthly investment at 9.9% for 36 months from your bank, from any other credit union, any lender. Like, you're not saying like, we have a plan through Green Sky at this rate,
okay.
you know, so there's nothing dishonest about it. As long as you're putting an actual payment down there that's accurate for what that rate and term is.
And actually, truth be told, I can actually get 9.9% for 36 months. I can also get 11.9% for 48 months through Green Sky as well. We just don't show it because the interest rate is higher. And the only 9.9% program I think that you guys show in your, because if you guys have a list of the payment plans, there should be one 9.9% program in there, isn't there?
I'll look at, I'll pull up Green Sky right now and see.
I think there's one. I think there's one. There should have been a list. Cody, did you get the list of, you remember when corporate changed all of when they changed some of the finance plans, they sent us out a list of like 27 or 28 different plans that Green Sky offers. And David and them picked out like 5 of the ones that we would be able to use. If you should have gotten that in your email probably 2.5 months ago, give or take.
I don't
And
remember.
you'll actually see there's like 30 different plans, guys, just so you know.
I have a printout of it.
It only
Do you
shows
remember?
it.
I'm
Yeah, see
trying to
what you
find-
guys, yeah, there was an email that Heather sent out to all of us,
No, this is not.
all the MSPs. It was sent out to all the MSPs.
Yeah.
Did you find it, Mark?
Yeah, I got it. I put it in my little binder here.
So the thing is if need be, we actually can offer that plan if we need be. We actually can. Just so you know. Certain plans we don't use. The biggest reason is because the merchant fees are too high. So you guys do realize that we have a 2.9% interest program. You know that, right? Green Sky offers a 2.9%
So
for
Terry,
120 months.
It's probably 10%.
I don't know
Do
if
what?
I ever got that email, Terry. I don't see anything. I see one from Heather. That's the ones that we actually offer.
Yeah.
Mark, if you do have that, will you forward that to me?
No, the only
Yeah,
thing
I'll
that
go
I
ahead and-
have is
I'll look for
there's
it.
5 plans. There's 5 plans. I printed up. There's 5 plans. There's the 6.9 for 180 months that costs the rep 6% of the job. There's
We're not using that plan no more.
Okay.
Terry, I
there's-
think that got sent out to the MSPs. I don't think that they would have sent that to us.
Okay.
Okay. It was. All right, then I'll go back and check.
Yeah,
for
so if that's the case, you know, we have the 120 months, 6.9, we've got the 7.9 for 84 months, we've got the no interest for 18 months and the no interest for 12 months. That's what we've got from what Heather sent.
Okay, I'll go ahead and pull it for you, guys, and I'll send it to you. But there's actually like 25 or 30 plans we have. Most of the plans we don't use though. Number one, because their merchant fees are really high. So one of the better plans that Green Sky has is 2.9% for 120 months. It's awesome because the payment factor is only 1%, which means if you got $20,000 worth of product, 1% of that means their payment's $200 for 0 money down. The challenge with that is the dealer fee on that puppy is almost 19%. Okay. Our 6.9% for 180 months our merchant fee on that is almost 13% on that merchant fee. That's why we don't use the plan no more. The merchant fee is too high. We used to have a 0% interest for 60 months that we could use, but the merchant fee on that is almost 22% now. So those plans exist. 9.9% for 36 months is a plan that exists, and it is something that we can sell if we needed to, if that's what it came down to. You're never going to sell that, or at least you shouldn't, but you could. All we'd have to do is put in for it. So again, if you're one of those ones that it's a thing that you don't like to do, then don't use it. Show the 7.9% for 84 months. You're hurting yourself. Okay. You're hurting yourself by doing it. And I'll go back to a comment that I made a couple weeks ago. I'm okay, guy. And this is no shot at Michelle. This is a shot at everybody that has done stuff like this. Okay. For a long time now, especially since I got here in May, we have known that there are things in the house that we are saying that's a bold-faced lie, and we still say them anyway. And what we sit there and we say is we say it because this is what we were taught, even though we now know that's a lie and has known it for a while now. Okay. I don't want anybody to do anything that's uncomfortable for them because, again, I don't teach anybody to lie, cheat, or steal. But just keep in mind, though, this is a program we can sell if we need to, but we do need a negotiating point somewhere. The challenge that everybody's going to do is the lower the interest rate you start, when somebody starts complaining about interest, they'll complain about interest because in their mind, the only way for you to come down in price then is to lower the cost of the product. What they don't know is that we can lower the interest rate and extend the terms without having to sit there and mess with the price. So it's just a negotiating tool that we use. Could it sound used car salesman? Well, of course it is, because it's also what they do in a car lot is a negotiation tool as well. Okay. And that's what it is. Everybody's got some sort of a negotiating tool, including ourselves. Okay, that's weird. I didn't.
I like negotiating tool. Yeah. Oh, see, now it's not gonna do it. There it goes. There it goes. There it goes.
That's okay, Ron.
So anyway, so that's what I would say, guys. Again, I never want anybody to do anything that they're going to be uncomfortable with. Okay, for sure. But again, in no way, shape, or form are we harming anybody. Are we lying or cheating or stealing from anybody? And you will never be taught to do that ever. I don't do that. Okay, so this is how I present this, though. I appreciate the feedback, Miss Michelle. Thank you. And again, not picking on you. So if it came out that way, Mihita, I am so sorry. I don't mean it to be at all. Okay.
Oh. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Anything about
Terry,
this at all?
Yeah, so that the column on the right, with the 9.9%, that's an actual plan. You're not just using the numbers for the job size. Like the 2,000 down, the $500 monthly payment, that's not for the job size number. That's because of the plan is like that.
Maybe you want to change it depending on how big of the plan is.
He's
asking, what he's asking is like, you always show for the monthly investment, $2,000 and $2,000 down, $500 a month. Is that just what that plan is, or are you gonna change that? So if it's a $40,000 project, you're gonna show, $4,000 down, $1,000 a month for blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Remember I told you hypothetical numbers, hypothetical.
Okay.
Hypothetical. So the down payment that I show is always 10% ish.
Right.
Ish.
Okay.
Okay. In this case here,
Good question.
for example, if I wanted to show a round number, in this case here, if I was really showing 10%, let's say 10% of this is going to be $1,429, right? So I would round that up, to something where I know that if I'm going to use it, this will be round. So I would sit there and say, instead of 14,200, I would do, or 1,429, I do 1,490. This way the numbers come out to be round. But I use approximately 10%. That's where I stick around. I stick around 10%. Okay. Sometimes it's 10 or 12, sometimes it's 13. It just to get these to a round number, if I have to finance it, then that's what I use. From there, so I don't have to, I can do one of two things. I can either look up on a, I can either look, go to my calculator or get online and I can look for a payment calculator to see what the actual payment would be, what it would really be. Me personally, again, I know I'm never selling here. So I use a payment factor of 345 because it's just easy for me to remember 345. So payment factor means whatever number, you take that number and multiply whatever you're financing, and that'll give you your payment. So if I was using $20,000 or $10,000, a payment factor of 345 means my payment would be $345. That's how I do it in my head. But again, Cody, for sure, out in Portland and out in Seattle, and you guys, you can certainly pull up a payment app and just plug in the interest, the length of terms, and the dollar amount, and it'll give you the payment that way as well. Okay. But that's what I do.
I was gonna say, for anybody using my pricing calculator, I'll add this stuff in, it'll be really quick, and then I'll update that, so you guys can have all that in front of you, at least until we're using the Bendo stuff.
Thanks, Cody. So that's what I do, guys, is that. I show that. And truth be told, 9.9% is a good interest rate, just so you know. 9.9 is actually pretty good. If you wanted to show 11.9%, you could do that too. But 9.9% is actually not bad at all. At all. 9.9 is really good. Is a good interest rate.
Does it cost us anything to turn on that plan in Green Sky? Can we just turn it on just for the sake of peace of mind for the reps to be able to say it is something that's offered in there?
Well, so here's the thing. That's what I asked David and them for. David's kind of weird when it comes to that because David is, and this is a direct quote, he's a very simple person. He does not want certain plans and more plans turned on because he believes it to be confusing to the sales reps, to the customers, and to the girls in the office, the admin. So he wouldn't turn it on. I tried to get him to turn on 9.9 for 36 months and 11.9% for 36 months. He wouldn't do it.
All right, no worries.
Then another question, Barry. Do you talk at all about 12 months same as cash right here?
No, I don't talk about it at all unless it happens to come up.
Okay.
Only when it comes up do I talk about it. And it literally has to come up where a customer tells me, I don't like to pay interest at all. I don't this. So let's do this. And maybe I can answer that. Who wants to role play this out with me and be the customer? And we can go ahead and go through this. So here's what I want you to do. I've got right now 10 minutes after 11. Let's do this first. Who wants to role play this out? Pick somebody here. Somebody volunteer. Or I'm going to pick you.
I'll do it.
Okay. So, all right. So here's what you do then, Michelle. Get with Cody. Okay. Write down on a piece of paper, more or less, this is what you're looking to go ahead and pay, or what kind of payment fits in your budget, that type of thing. We'll kind of role play through this. Here's what I don't want you to do so as we don't have to take a long time because I can get after this kind of shit. Let's not sit there and be that kind of customer that's going to be a dipshit. They want to sit there and, let's not be a dipshit, but don't be a rollover either. You know what I mean? We don't want to do that either. Okay. So we can kind of get an idea of how to walk through this.
Yeah.
Do what?
So what do you want me to prepare for with a piece of paper? Just about what I can afford?
Yeah. What I'm going to go ahead and do is we're going to come up with, I'm going to do say 15 windows, come up with an X amount of dollars, you know, and let's just see how we can narrow this down to see if we can close you on, okay?
Am
So
I
I'll
supposed
just
to
have
be
a
the-
budget
So-
in mind.
supposed to be the homeowner, just to clarify, and I'm walking through it with her, or I'm supposed to be the homeowner and she's the one doing it, just to clarify.
Well, you two are gonna be the homeowners.
Oh, there are two of us.
And I'll be
here.
the-
Oh, I got you.
Yeah,
And
And we have
I'll
to-
be the sales rep here.
and
Oh,
don't be
okay,
a
I
robot,
got you.
but don't be an asshole.
So it's
My
12
neighbor.
minutes after 10. I will see everybody, but I will come back in 10 minutes.
Oh.
I know, like, from a junior standpoint, like, I fall back on 12.6 cash all the time. Interesting.
It's, well, the reason he hates 12-month same cash, we took his financing class, so we know.
Yeah.
But like, it's 12-month same as cash, and if you think about it, for those numbers you advantage of it, is for people who could literally pay cash. They have the money
Job
already.
last night, they literally, she goes, you saw that 12 month savings cash before, and I'm like, yeah, she goes, okay, well, obviously do that, because, I mean, they literally, living at a $2.2 million house, she could write a check for $7,000 for windows. They probably had $7,000 somewhere in their house. Given
Right.
money. So she goes, why wouldn't I take that? So the challenge if you lead with that, in those situations, it's just costing a fee. And you guys are making the money, you're making it and everything. And the problem is, it's not gonna compel anybody who doesn't have the money, because if they don't have the money today, why are they gonna have the money? You know, I mean, so, under circumstances like maybe a homeowner who's retired, and they can only pour out so much money out of their accounts every so often. You know, then that's what you pay for it, but for the person who's like, oh, I don't know if I can, like, I've been sitting there with people like, maybe if you have that Christmas this year, you go out to Starbucks, maybe you can, roll enough money away every single month, and have it, you know, but those people that don't do that, because that's the nerve wracking. With that one broken down car, we're gonna not be able to take off. So, it's not a slow sales tool, it's just something that people take advantage of if they are financially literate.
I just wondering if someone has a preconceived notion of this is what we're going to offer, like, I feel like they'd be like, well, Tom said, like, there was enough, where we had no money down, so you write that.
And then-
Right there. And then you
And
can
say, okay, let me ask you this, if we could do it, no money down, no extra 12 months, would we be getting together at a skill table here?
right, before you even get into it, you're like, okay, well, let's think about it. Like,
And they're like,
if
yes,
this is a
oh, absolutely.
possibility, okay, awesome.
Let me be the first one today, text family,
Yeah, but
absolutely,
then
write
you
it
can
out,
write it out.
you know,
Okay.
exactly, and then if they say, well, I don't know, I still don't know if I would, then it's like, how do you go to 18 months? Or, let's put this on something that's not so stressful. You might not change your interest, I think that ROI graph I talked about before. Whereas like now, we're offsetting all the interest they're paying, show them that like, hey, now you have this amount of interest. Exactly. You're only paying this much interest, if you have the money.
Target that they put on that for Ballard.
Yeah.
I wasn't there, it was like, this is the worst place to have something.
I think that Fred Meyer.
Doing drugs, how there's like an entryway section where like the cars are,
Oh, yeah,
there's like always something happening.
Yeah.
And it's down.
What?
Shit, reminds me of, remember, that, dude from Phoenix, Black dude, Ryan?
Ryan, yeah.
Like, he's really into basketball, right? I remember he got a haircut one time, and, he would always like trade me, like, that. And, the dude from Boston, his name, not Jason Tatum. And Jason Tatum, basketball player.
Okay. I mean, like, it sounds familiar.
Yeah. So during the All-Star game at one point, she was mic'd up. He's like, yeah, I just gotta go a second. Like, I'm gonna get a cut tomorrow, so I'm gonna fade up like a top 5. Top 5 what? Just looks at it like, top 5. so it's like, top 5. Like Ryan's always like, man, she's gonna get a cut tomorrow. You know what I mean? It's like top 5 right now. Top 5 what? Top 5.
Oh.
Did someone turn the heat on?
I do.
Good.
I just made it down.
Like, not a muscular.
I think it's like, yeah, because it doesn't have enough like shit between it.
It's just a weird injury. Had it like 3 months. So I
You
have
guys
to
wanna
go.
do it?
It's not gonna, it's gonna.
Right. Unless.
Yeah.
You have to do something.
Final number when it's like, oh, this is your number for a year. This is the
Oh.
promo
Yeah.
price. They don't do
The
it.
promo
with us.
number there that you put on the paper,
Without
usually that doesn't have tax.
And then you like add the tax.
Cause people,
When you're doing the finance.
cause people are like, oh, it's
Here.
every,
Noticing we got champion. You never write champion's number here though.
I used to, but I just. Yeah, that's right.
How did you, this doesn't have their price on there. What might have wrong with you?
Oh, yeah, you know, I just changed my call when I just changed.
It's on the price for-
Mine probably $1 off.
Right.
That's the JKR.
They're similar.
yeah.
Oh, JKR, I love that, okay.
Yeah, I do, it's just, I'm like, you know, again, I know it's position privilege. I know that like, it's.
Yeah, go on.
They basically have like isn't it like 2 years or 18 months of 5%?
6 months.
I have seen them get for 4%.
Number one was on there.
I haven't
Mine
seen,
was
I haven't
6
seen.
months.
That's a, guess that,
You
Yeah,
can
plus.
put, yeah, you can just put JKR in that.
Well, champion, everyone seems to know champion because he advertises a lot too.
highest here, like, percent would take out of your commission, I would just imagine it would be at least 10% out of your.
Chris Martin, like your house.
Well, they have a lot of, they have one.
Renewal says 35,200.
Yeah, that's about $3. But I would just go off of those numbers.
You can do it for your, too.
I have an aunt, uncle. That JKR, can you just substitute that for champion and just say that's champions? Is that how champions?
It's probably a little bit more than that. I probably,
Champions probably closer to 30.
what does that one say?
26.
I got
Oh, sorry.
So maybe wait, it'll be less when
Yeah.
you your part.
Yeah, probably around 8, 29.
Go easy.
What would that would put it at how much window? What was it again?
26,180.
Yeah, 2280. Yeah, that's probably good.
42.
Let's advance windows
like-
pricing.
On there alone, like, I don't run into it a lot, so I don't, they're probably more like. I would probably be close to like. They're pretty cheap. I think they're, out of everybody, I think they're ones that are, they come in pretty close to what we're at.
So they're double base.
Yeah.
So they don't qualify.
Yeah, it's. Here's that.
Nobody does.
Yeah.
Unless-
Because renewal can even qualify for rebate with their triple pay.
Yeah.
I
I know there are a few up there, but I don't, not very many around here.
It'd be fixed and it does budget stuff, but they have
But
like,
still.
like. Get together as. It's like barbecue sauce, the house is mustard, like rubs and all that stuff, so any sauce that I can usually take it to there and actually like $7 a bottle. I like the original. I didn't want the modern one. Yeah, I got both of these in my fridge.
This is probably my mom's one. I feel like she'll probably.
So still yeah, probably 2 years from now. Get 3%, yeah.
So the same day as the promo,
You everything.
So, yeah, it would probably be this, but, okay, you could probably. Even if.
I would.
I-
I'd probably price it out.
If you get.
Oh, yeah, I'm just waiting, yeah, cause you're still probably 2 years out, right?
We can do 250, and one eight, basically, that was the
I would, but I found dishwasher and the needed laundry for like that. So I was like, you know, yours is nice. And you got that
It's
camera,
in Magnolia.
and you have that view that. So much.
Yeah, I wouldn't live there. I wouldn't pay that much if I was by myself.
Okay, but yeah, that would be a nice spot. There is some places in Magnolia. Shoreline, Shopton. No. Shopton. No, because Shoreline was not hard at all. So it was like not joke.
DK bought a house?
He did.
They used to work here.
What did he go to his new job? What was his that name?
He works for his dad.
What do they?
He was like everyone's
What is it?
They have a financing, they do, I
He
think.
liked the loving
tax.
And he lived with
tax
Ari
break,
as
big
our.
companies.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
Oh, do you use the calendar?
he's finishing up school, but.
Or his parents.
Parents own. Yeah,
Apex seen the offer, promotional and tip. So the tip is the tip home, promo is the.
Yeah, we just do that on there. That's why I don't even.
What?
Just the margins, the margins are usually.
Oh, so these are the different marks.
Yeah, yes.
So you still want me looking at, when I do this, you want me looking at this.
Yeah.
Get the total number here. And then once I get here, then I can go, well, is this accurate here?
These aren't on the pricing, you know?
So it's not accurate either. 'Cause I
I
got,
don't even, this, I don't even use this. I figure all that out on my.
so when you're, once you get your price,
Yeah,
you write down the promo price.
Oh.
35.
Oh, your sunscreen. Oh, it's awesome. Yeah. So it, before we were buying a lot of bubbly, and when bubbly first came out and the toy and all that, it was quite cheap.
I did the first one, well, I did this one.
So Danny got that
The
first,
second-
I mean, 3 years. And she bought me one that's super cool, but you're not supposed to do it in the house. And I don't have a.
Okay, are you guys ready?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, wait, I'm
We
gonna
should
sit
probably sit
back
here.
next to my hubby.
Yeah, we can sit over here. We can just come over here, sweetheart.
Okay, sweetheart. I'm coming.
I love it when she says that.
Like that.
Just like that. I'm coming, I'm coming.
Oh, that would be terrible.
Whoa, oh shit, syphilis.
Yeah, my mom brought
Okay.
that up. Like, I'm not a
Are
big
you-
fan of these flavors. I was like, cool, do it, let's go.
All right, everybody ready? Okay, so here we go, Mr. and Mrs. Blaylock. Okay. So Mr. and Mrs. Blaylock, I'm ready to go ahead and present your price to you. So let me go over a few things for you real quick. What I'm showing here is that we're going to custom build, deliver, and install 10 triple pane vinyl windows, all in the color of white, all with high performance low E coating, all with argon gas fill frames, all with a lifetime warranty. All labor and installation and service is all included in this price. Okay. Now looking at our competitors for right now, Renewal by Andersen, as we talked about a little bit earlier, for the Fibrex material, you're going to be looking at about $45,000 for that. At the same time, through Pella and their fiberglass product, you're looking at a little closer to 32. And with Capstone on a triple pane, similar vinyl product in triple pane, you're going to be looking at about 30,000, which on that $30,000 price is actually a pretty good price when you consider that fair market value on this product would be about 33. So Capstone's actually coming in a little bit lower than fair market value, which is actually pretty good. Okay. That being said, in our case here, whoops, sorry guys, I erased this. With us, what you're going to be looking at, number one, is I promised you a price earlier that if we couldn't partner together on this thing today while I was here, that I would give you a price that's going to be good for a year. So your 1 year guaranteed price is going to be $20,000. Okay. What you do with that price is going to be up to you between now and a year from now. However, with all our promotional offers and the things that we're doing, what you're looking at a total cost right now is $14,290. That being said, there's going to be a couple ways to pay for this. Option A, of course, is always a cash option where you can put 30% of your money down. The other 60% you pay at the time we receive the windows and schedule your installation. And then from there, what we're going to do is we'll collect the remaining 10% upon completion. This way, if something is not the way we said it would, at the very least, you know you're going to be able to hold 10% hostage until that is. At the same token, too, however, if the cash option does not fit within the budget, then what we do is we have our monthly investment option. With your monthly investment option, with your $2,000 down, you're looking at a monthly investment of $493 and some pennies. That's going to be at an interest rate of 9.9% for 36 months on an unsecured note. Okay, so there's no collateral you would have to put on this. That being said, there's your price.
Okay.
9.9. When did interest rate get so high?
Everything's high these days. I mean, it is a good price, you know, it's just, we haven't really been saving up for windows and stuff. So that definitely seems like a great price. I'm just not sure how we can make the,
Yeah,
you know, make it work.
$493 a month is more than
Yeah, and we don't have enough cash just squirreled away, you know, to pay cash for it. So yeah, I'm not sure if either of those would realistically work for us.
Okay, so, and I obviously understand all of that. So let's break this down just a little bit though, to help me understand and see what we can't do to figure things out for you. First and foremost, forgetting all this for a second, the price of $14,290. In your mind, do you believe that to be a fair and an honest price for the type of product you're receiving, the installation, the service, and the warranty that goes along with that? Do you believe that to be fair and honest?
It does, but based on what we've seen, it really does, but we just had no idea how much
Yeah,
this
we've
project
never
cost.
gotten quotes before, so we didn't really know what to expect, you know? I mean, based on everything you told us today, it does seem like that's a good price. It's just more than we were kind of expecting. Sorry, we've never done windows on any home. This is our first home.
And your guy came by and offers us an inspection, you know. And
Okay. And again, I understand what I'm trying to figure out here, because this is going to be one of the most important parts, no matter how we can or cannot pay for this, is in your mind, you have to believe that this is in fact fair and honest. Now, I understand that you haven't priced things up before, so it's kind of tough for you to decide what it is, what you were expecting. So I get that. So if we were to take that out of the equation for a minute, though, in your mind, does $14,290 seem to be on the money based on your opinion?
Yeah, I think for everything, I mean, truthfully, if you guys hadn't stopped by, I don't think we'd be buying this nice little window. So I think for the quality and everything that you guys are offering, that's a smoking good deal. You know, I think if we were to do windows otherwise, like if you had knocked on our door, we probably would have been doing triple pane and stuff like that. But for everything you guys offer, that seems like for sure seems like a fair and honest price. It's just a little more than we were hoping to see.
Okay, and I understand. So obviously, based on what you're saying right now, cash is not an option. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have nearly enough to be able to do that. And I just, everything's so expensive. Inflation's crazy these days. Mayonnaise costs $12 a freaking tub. So I'm not confident that we'd be able to have this. We have the 30% down. Honestly, that's not an issue. It's that 60% for the second stage that's the problem.
Okay. Well, with that being said, then, if we look at our monthly investments, as you have sat there and said, 30% obviously fits in the budget. Therefore, $2,000 on this project right here, then I have to assume that the 2,000 does fit in your budget without taking bread and butter off the table. Is that correct?
Yes.
For sure.
Okay. So let's look at it this way for a second, though. Let's just look at this. For me, I'm one of these worst case scenario type of guys. So let's look at it this way. Let's assume you put $2,000 down. Let's also assume we have the ability to look into the future. And here's what your future looks like to you. Okay. You put the $2,000 down. You find out that your son absolutely has to have that G.I. Joe with the Kung Fu grip. At the same time, too, we want to make sure we're going to go to Bora Bora and our car breaks down and we need to sit there and get things fixed. Would we be able to do all those things with the $2,000 down? Or would you wish you had some or part of that money back?
No, I think the 2,000 down would be fine.
We'll
Yeah.
be okay. I think we'll be
Unless
okay.
unless he wants like some super smart G.I. Joe.
Okay. Yep.
This is an actual-
And that may happen, just so you know, sir. That may happen. Okay. So now the couple things left. A minute ago, you mentioned that 9.9% seems to be a little bit high. I believe that's what you said, Miss Michelle. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So if you were to be able to go to your bank, you yourself, and you were to go ahead and take out a loan on an unsecured note for this type of a dollar amount, what type of an interest rate would you expect to be able to get?
I mean, I know interest rates have gone up. I was just like, we keep our credit super clean, so I mean, like, we're used to 0% or 2%, 3%.
I mean,
It's been a while since we bought anything.
the last thing that we financed was a car that we got a few years ago when the interest rates were dirt cheap. So it's like 2.5%, which is really nice, for sure. And I haven't really looked into interest rates, but my brother just did a HELOC on his house, and even the HELOC was like 8+% or something like that. It's crazy. So
Right. So keep a couple things in mind. Everything that you just mentioned to me is a secure note. You're having to use collateral, because typically 99.9% of all banks, to take out a signature loan like this, which is an unsecured note, you're probably going to be looking at an interest rate of somewhere between about 10.5% and 13%. Everything that you mentioned with a HELOC or a car actually is a secured note. That's why your interest rate is lower, because if something happens and you default on it, they just come over here and take your stuff, right? So 9.9% is actually not too bad. But again, something that you did mention, Michelle, that you don't particularly care for because you believe that to be just a little bit too high. So I get that. Okay. At the same token, too, you also mentioned that 493 does not fit in your budget. At 493, that's going to take bread and butter off the table, right?
Yeah.
oh yeah,
Okay.
and the milk, bread and butter and the milk.
Okay, well, we don't want anybody to be starving. So earlier, remember when we were talking about what we don't want to do, right, is we don't want to end up in the window poorhouse. $493, that puts us in the window poorhouse. So in order to keep from being in the window poorhouse, what payment fits in your budget that does not put you in the window poorhouse? What would that look like?
Probably, I mean, we just paid off a couple loans, and those were at about $250 a month. So, we could just take the money that we were spending on that, switch it over to this, and that would probably be fine.
Okay, so what you're saying is if we were at $250 a month, that would fit in your budget without hurting anything, right?
Yeah. We've been spending that for the last couple of years, to pay off this, motorcycle that I bought.
And if
Sorry.
it was closer to 275, would 275 still fit in the budget?
I mean,
Yeah, we could squeeze that, I think, maybe cut back on the Starbucks in the morning or something like that. Yeah, I think we could do that.
Okay, so Basically, if I got this correct, what you're saying is in order for us to go ahead and start this partnership today, we've got to make sure that number one, we're okay with this price, and that seems to be good. We know that cash is not an option. And at the same time, too, what you're looking at is a total investment of being able to put $2,000 down without hurting yourself. We just got to make sure we get in this $250 range. And if push comes to shove, if we had a little better interest rate, that'd make you even happier. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I mean,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, we can pull it off.
Okay. Well, if you're open to suggestion here, folks, and I'm assuming you are, but are we open to suggestion here?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay. Here's what I'll go ahead and do for you. Here's what we need to do. The better way to go ahead and do this for us, though, so we can do this and help each other out, is going to be this. I'm going to go ahead and do this for $202 a month. Okay. At the same time, too, you're going to be looking at an interest rate of approximately 7.99% is what it's going to be for 180 months. Now, keep a couple things in mind here for a minute. At 180 months, that sounds like a really long time. Okay. And if you were holding your breath, that certainly would be a long time. However, this is a simple interest loan. Therefore, any money that you send in that's above the minimum payment required, 100% of that money goes straight to the principal, and there is no penalty for early payoff. Now, what we know is that you can squeeze out for sure in a comfortable way $250 a month. But if we have to sit there and cut back on a Starbucks or two, we know we can get as much as $275. So my bank may making these payments here, you're obviously going to pay this way sooner, off a lot sooner. At the same time, too, the advantage here is going to be you save 2 points on your money going from 9.9% to 7.99%. And we know the 202 fits in the budget. So based on everything that you're telling me, if everything that you're telling me is on the up and up, and I certainly believe that it is, then the only thing I would be able to sit there and ask you at this point in time is whose name do we put this in? Do we put it in both of you, or do you just want to put this in yours, Cody, or yours, Michelle? Which way are we going to go here?
I guess we probably do it under both of us. I mean, yeah, we both make all those kind of decisions each other. I guess it doesn't really matter to us either way.
It doesn't matter.
So, and this is, in this case here, here's how I would sit there. This is the way I would have closed this here, is in this type of scenario. Now, this was a fairly easy scenario for sure. But for the most part, most of these scenarios that we do is going to be basically this same way. What we have to figure out when you're closing, first and foremost, is you got to start somewhere. Now, they gave me too much information to make it easier for us to sit there and close them because they volunteered a lot of stuff, and that's fine. Despite what they volunteered, though, you notice I started here at the top first, and then I start working my way down. As I work my way down, I also start closing doors as well. So basically, is this fair and honest? You gave me a couple things. Okay, I hear all that. I know you've never done that before, and I get that for sure. So you haven't had a chance to think about it. But getting that out of the way, though, in your mind, based on everything you're hearing and seeing and all that, do you believe this to be fair and honest? Yes or no? We have to get a commitment here first. Had they said no, I think that's still a little high. Then I would have followed up with, okay, that being said then, in your mind, what were you hoping a fair and an honest price would look like? And then I would cross this number out and write down whatever it is that they say. And it doesn't matter where it's at. My line of questioning is going to end up being the same way. So if I ask that question,
you want to go back and role play that again, and we can go down that route?
Sure, we can go ahead and do that. So let me ask you a question, Mr. and Mrs. Blaylock. At $14,290, do you believe that to be a fair and an honest price?
I mean, it's higher than we were hoping for, if you want us to be honest.
Well, honesty is the best policy here, right? Because if we're going to sit there and both lie to one another, we can't help each other. So I appreciate that you would sit there and be that way, sir. So thank you. So that being said, sir, in your mind, what would a fair and an honest price, what would you be hoping that would look like?
We did windows on our last house, and granted, it was a while ago, but it was only like $8,000 for 12 windows. So they weren't as nice, but I think, we were chatting about it last night, and we were really hoping that this would be under $10,000.
Okay, so what you were hoping it'd be under 10,000, because keep in mind, $9,999 is in fact under 10 grand, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'll split the difference between 9 and 10. How about say closer to 95? Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we were hoping for, and then we even get to go out for, you know, a little fancy family dinner.
Okay, so number one, I would sit there and say, you said you were talking about that last night. So this price that you were hoping for, this was before I got here, correct?
Yeah, that's what we were talking about last night.
Okay, so now that I'm here, and you've obviously seen a lot more window than you were expecting. You certainly weren't expecting a triple pane versus the double pane that you paid the last time when you did this a few years back. But now that you've seen what you've seen and seen a better product, sir, what were you hoping the cost would be now?
It's fair. I mean, you know, probably 12.
12, yeah. I mean, could you go down to 12?
Well, let me ask you this. You said 12,000. Obviously, I can't get to 12,000 or I would already be there, obviously. Okay. But the question I have on the table, and this is for my benefit more than anything else, some information I could take back to the office. If we were at $12,000, if we were, are you telling me we'd be able to get together and start this partnership today while I was here? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, yeah, we weren't really planning on making a you know, decision right at the second. Kind of want to chat about it a little bit, but yeah, I think we could. I mean, we don't have $12,000 in cash to be able to spend, so we'd have to figure out how we pay for it. But I think 12,000 for the product you showed us. I think that's a smoking good deal, and we definitely want to figure it out for sure and take advantage of it.
Okay, so that being said, again, as you just said, you can't pay cash. So what we have to do is we have to look at the finance options. Then I would go down the same exact road you guys just saw me go down a minute ago. I would go down the same exact road, figure out what kind of a payment and everything it would be. The only thing that's different here, and some of you won't like this, I get it, but it's just what I would do here. I got all the things I need to know I can get. I know push comes to shove that I could get down to $12,000. I know I can for sure. I can actually get down on a 30% margin, a 31% margin, something like that. I can get down to $11,400 and something dollars. I already know that for sure. Here's what I also know though. You guys will go ahead and move at 12. I'm at 14,290. The difference here is $2,290. So I got a lot of options here, and you guys have given me a lot to be able to close this. So I have a couple choices I can make here, guys. Okay, here are my choices. Option A, I don't have to get off the price at all and just explain to them, hey, look, the price is what the price is, and so sorry, blah, 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 go through all that stuff. But look, at this point in time, you don't have the cash anyway. So this kind of sort of doesn't matter. We have to kind of figure out about the payment. And we now know the payment fits in your budget because that's what you told me. That's one option. Options 2 and 3 is what I would do. One of these two options here, more than likely. I would sit there and thank them for their time. You know what, Mr. and Mrs. Blaylock, I appreciate it. You guys have been great sports. I certainly wish I could go ahead and do this for you and get to this. But unfortunately, like I said, if I could, I would already be there and I would have shown you that price right away anyway. That being said, I appreciate everything that you've done. Let me start picking up some of this stuff and getting out of the way. I would pick up a couple things, and without asking permission or anything, I would pick up my phone immediately and I would call my managing senior partner right away. Ring, 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 ring. Hey, Mr. Placier, Terry Hewlin. Hey, listen, just to give you some heads up, I'm out here with Mr. and Mrs. Blaylock. Just to let you know, I'm getting ready to bounce out of here. Is there anywhere you're needing me to go ahead and go, or is it Miller time? Am I done for the day? I just want to call and find out. First thing Mark should be asking me is, are you going to be placing an order with these folks today? Are we starting a partnership today? You know what, Mr. Pelessier, we're not going to be starting a partnership today. You know, unfortunately, the price is a little bit more than they were prepared to spend, to be honest with you. The payment was a little higher than they had wanted it to be. We got to their payment, but the overall price is just a little uncomfortable for them. So no, At this point in time, we're not going to be starting a partnership with them. However, I did give them the 1 year price that they're going to hang on to and think about that for the next year. Maybe they'll go ahead and give us a call in the future. That's a great question. I asked them earlier if we could get work in the neighborhood if we put windows in their home, and they actually told me that they believe that they could because they can't be the only ones having problems with their windows. And they got the same builder built all these houses out here. So yeah, I believe we can get more work in the neighborhood for sure. That's a hell of a question. Hold on, let me think about that. It's a total of 10 units. We're doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 of the 10 units face the front of the house. So the exposure is really good, which is part of the reason why I believe we can get more work in the neighborhood. And as you know, Mr. Pelessier, business does breed business. So yeah, we can get more work in the neighborhood. It is. I mean, this is the window they said they want to put on their home over all others for sure. But, doggone it, we just couldn't get to that price. Okay. Well, hey, listen, I appreciate it. Let me know if there's anywhere else I need to sit there and go, but I'll go ahead and let them know. I'm in I don't know, you know what, let me ask. Hey, Mr. Miss Blaylock, what zip code are we in?
97267.
We're in the 97267 zip code. So if there's anywhere in that area you need me to go, I can get to it pretty quick. All right, buddy. Yeah, I'll give you a call back in a few minutes. Let me just run this by them real quick and I'll let you know. Okay, so Mr. Miss Blaylock, here's what that was all about. I wanted to let them know that I was getting ready to leave. And first, number one, that you guys didn't kidnap me and see if there's anywhere else they need me to go. Number two, however, what it does appear is we can do a couple things here. Number one, if you could raise your expectation just a little bit, we'll lower ours a little bit. And what we can do is we can meet you in the middle. And by meeting you in the middle, what you're going to be looking at is a monthly investment of only about $186 a month, as opposed to the 202. Your interest rate's also going to be 7.9% instead of 9.9%. And that being said, you don't exactly get to your winner chicken dinner type of number, but we can be really, really close. If you'll just give up a little, we'll give up a little, and we can meet in the middle there. Since everything else fits in your budget, as you were saying, I would imagine that this should be okay with you since we're not paying cash. Is that correct?
Yeah, how much do you say per month?
About $180 a month, give or take $1 or $2 either way. I can figure it out for you to get to the exact penny, but give or take $1 or $2 either way.
Yeah, I don't think that would be an issue.
Okay, so why do I know about the 180, guys? Why? All right. This payment of 202 for basically 8% is at $14,290. I didn't even take in consideration the $2,000 out. By taking the $2,000 out, I'm actually going to lower that at least $20 or a little bit, give or take. So now I'm going to be able to show an even smaller number when I sit there and say, okay, now that I've calculated this out, you know what, folks, I kind of messed up. You know what? When you were talking about the $2,000 down, I actually didn't sit there and take that out of the amount financed. You're actually going to be looking at a payment that's, instead of 202, a little bit closer to $177.12. So I don't think you'll be mad about a lower payment, but just so you know, I actually didn't pull that out. So your payment's actually lower than we both were hoping for. That's why I do it that way, so I can give them a nicer number, especially if they start, if this even here gets a little high. All of you guys have done this before if you've sold windows before, where you got to a payment where somebody said they needed to be, and then all of a sudden you get to that payment and they're telling you, oh, you know what, that's awesome, but we need to think about this or we need to think about that. Okay, the reason why they do that more often than not is because they didn't think you could get to that payment. They didn't think that you could. In this case here, once we get to this, and if Cody and them were to come back and tell me, okay, that's awesome, you got there, but now that we think about it, even that would still be a tad bit high. Oh, it would be a tad bit high. Why didn't you just say so in the first place? I mean, so for it to, if that's a tad bit high, then I would imagine closer to 170 or 175 would actually be better, right? Yeah. Well, let me look at this. Oh my gosh, you know what? Doggone it, I messed up here. I forgot to take the $2,000 out. Sorry about that. Your payment's actually like $172. So obviously this is now going to work based on what you're telling me now. So this is a lot better. That's why I hold that stuff back that way, because I can always take it out and tell them I made a mistake, that I forgot to pull it out. but that's why. So that's what I do. Cody brought up a point. Now, Cody, when we were talking the other day, when you called me up and said, look, how do you make this not look shaky? Now you know how you can go about that. The problem is if you go from here and make your deal right away and drop down to here, then you lose some credibility in the customer's eyes, because if that's the case, then why didn't you go there in the first place? You said you were trying to help me. Okay. And I don't want to sound like a used car salesman here. So that phone call that you hear me make, there's nothing used car salesman-y about it. I'm calling in to let them know I'm leaving. We're not discussing price in any way, shape, or form at all. And they're asking all the things that we set up earlier. Earlier, we asked the customer, if we put windows in their homes, could we get more business in the neighborhood someday? Now you know why we asked that question now. Because when you got to get down to the close, I can now sit there and say that. You know what? Funny you asked that, Mr. Blaylock. I actually asked him that about an hour and a half ago. Can we get more work in the neighborhood if we put windows in their home someday? And here's what they told me. So yeah, I believe that we can because of this, and this. And business breeds business. Yes, it's awesome. Yes, there's X amount of windows in the front of the house, so the exposure is fantastic. So yes, I do believe that. That's why we asked that question, which also goes along with our promotional program that we're offering also, to get a living billboard in the neighborhood in order to go ahead and generate more business throughout the neighborhood, to get and capture the business of the Keeping Up with the Joneses. Okay. So that's what I do. I start here because I know I can come down if I need to. And I know that I can. But if you go to this price right away and they start giving all the excuses that Cody and them just gave, I have nowhere to go. I'm done. This is it. There's nowhere for me to go. The only thing I can now do is try to talk my way into it, or I have to walk out so they can think about it for the next however long they want to think about it. What a customer is looking for is the most bang for their buck and the best deal. That's what they're looking for. We are doing that when they see this here. This from here to here is a substantial savings. From 20,000 to 14,290, that is a substantial savings. From 9.9 to 7.9, that is a substantial savings on an interest rate. That is substantial. From there, if we have to do some backwards math to help people, because if Cody and them are saying, holy shit, 180 months at $202 a month, that's an ungodly amount of interest. Well, in this case, I would take 202. I would multiply that out by 180 months. I would go ahead and subtract the 14,290 interest, divide that by 180, and find out that their interest rate is only like 36 bucks a month and shit, $39 a month. Folks, the interest is not near as bad as you think it is. It's just not. You know, you don't have a credit card in your wallet, no matter how good your credit is, as you told me, Miss Michelle, that's going to sit there and pay you that little bit, or that you're going to pay that little bit of interest on this amount of money for that length of time. You just don't. And by the way, it's not 202. It's actually less than that, but I just threw a number out. You're just not going to do that. So that's how I would go about this. Now, this takes some practice, and there's a lot of word track to go through this. But as you get better with it, it'll be 90% of what you just saw more often than not. More often than not, the word track is exactly what you saw. You just got to take your time and break yourself through it a little at a time. That's all. Okay. The reason why I don't bring up the zero interest, guys, truth be told, especially if you're in a market that you look, we should all be financing more than what we are. Okay. We should all be financing. Every market that I know of for the last 25 years, 20 years, all I've ever heard is, well, in our market, people don't like to make payments. People don't like to make payments. What a load of bullshit, just so you know. Because your market people aren't paying cash for their houses. They're not paying cash for their cars. They're not paying cash for their investments. They're not sitting there paying cash for their gas, water, electric, their insurance, and all this other bullshit up front. That's not what's going on. What they want is as little to no interest as possible. So the easiest thing to do is to say, we don't like payments. Bull crap. You get better at payments, your average ticket will go up. You just have to get better with it. You just have to get better with it. And we got to get better at talking a customer through things. That's all. It'll take time and we'll work our way through it. Okay. But that's all we have to be able to go ahead and do is that. So, questions so far?
Good question.
Yeah, I was wondering if you could go through the word track on that, because in years past, I've had people tell me they hate payments, they won't finance anything, they're anti-financing, they only pay cash, they don't wanna make themselves financially vulnerable, blah, 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 blah. And my default was always like, we know you're making payments on your home, you don't own that note outright, what about your car? Did you pay cash for that too? You know? And I would get stuck there. So would you kind of go through your word track on,
Sure.
you know, calling them out on their bullshit?
Sure. So
Good at that.
when a customer tells me that, what you're saying, I typically do kind of what you're starting to say right now. You know, so we don't like to make payments. We don't do any of that. We don't want to be financially making all that. That's what you're telling me, right, Miss Michelle?
Yes.
Okay.
The only
So
we have finances our house, everything else is paid off, we're debt free.
okay, so what you're saying too is when you bought your car, things like that, you paid cash for your car and all that, right?
Yeah, I mean, we did actually. Well, we sold one car, we saved up enough to upgrade a little bit. So yeah, we don't carry any loans for the cars, mostly just the house for the most part. You know, and you
Okay.
know, medical debt here and there when we had to get some stuff done, some surgeries.
Okay. And that's awesome. I get it. Look, I understand that in a perfect world, nobody wants to make payments. I understand that in a perfect world, everybody wants to be debt free. I get that. Okay. However, sometimes due to the imperfections of the world, sometimes we have to do the things we don't want to do to get the things that we need. So let's talk about the need part. Earlier, when we were inspecting the windows and looking at the windows, you made mention and you said that replacing your windows is something you're going to do someday. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. You also said that the windows were in fact costing you money on a daily basis. Now, did you really mean that? Or were you just saying that because the window man is standing here and you're trying to be nice? Did you really mean that? Are you honest and sincere?
No, I mean, I'm not sure how much, but there's definitely
Well, yeah,
some
they're
cost to
costing
it.
us some, but I mean, you know, we could save up cash and pay off the whole thing later too.
Okay. And I understand. And you know what, Miss Michelle, I'm certainly going to address that here in a minute too. There is no doubt. Okay. The next thing though is you said this is the window you want to put on your home over all others. Did we really mean that?
Oh, yeah, I mean, if we can
It's
afford it,
nice,
absolutely, it's the
yeah.
nicest window I've ever seen, honestly. And I've
Okay.
been people looking at windows a whole lot.
So here's what I would sit there and say to you folks then to look at. Let's look at this in a different way. And the reason why I say this, folks, is because we have to, right? I mean, in the long run, the largest investment that the average person makes in a lifetime is the home and the contents that are in it. And your windows are supposed to protect that investment. It isn't just in the heating and cooling costs, as we talked about earlier. It's the comfort level of the home. It's the dirt and the dust or the lack thereof that you're not going to sit there. It's the work that you don't have to sit there and dust as often or vacuum as often. Your carpets, your furniture, your electrical appliances, things like that don't go bad as fast. The other thing too is to think about too is the safety of the family. Now I get you may have lived in this house for the last 22 years and you've never had anybody break into the house. I get that. I get that. At the same time, too, that's true of everybody till the first time they get broken into. Graveyard's full of people that never thought they'd be there till the day they got there either. Okay. That being said, the challenge that we have here is this. By not doing anything at all, it's probably the worst crime we can do here is to continue to live with the condition that we have, knowing that we shouldn't be. Trying to turn around and say, we'll just save up the money and pay for it. then you're going to have to save more money than this because this product is not going to get any cheaper. If it was going to get cheaper after 100 years, we'd be giving windows away. Nobody would ever have to buy them. So obviously we know that that's not going to happen. Now, with you folks being as smart with your money as you are, the one thing I do know is you're not going to spend $3, $4, $5, $6,000 more 2, 3, 4, 5 months from now or a year from now when you could have saved that now, because that wouldn't be smart with your money. That would just not be smart at all. And I don't get the impression that you guys are, well, not smart with your money, or am I wrong?
No, I mean, yeah, that's accurate. I mean, yeah, I don't see how we could do the 20, especially in 6 months. We couldn't do the 20,000. There's no way. That'd be hard pill to swallow anyway, knowing that we kind of threw that away. So I agree.
Right. So in this case here, are you open to suggestion, folks? Are you?
Sure.
Look, let's do this. Let's go ahead and put this on a finance program, knowing that you can pay this puppy off at any time you choose to do so, or once you get in the position to be able to do it. In my world, what I would prefer to do is get you the lowest interest rate that I can, extend the terms out as far as I can. This way, if something should come up in a month, something gets a little hairy or gets a little bit weird, you have a smaller payment to fall back on, but you also have the ability to pay this off in 6 months or 7 months or 12 months or 15 months or whatever it is. So we can take advantage and be smart with our money and get the better pricing now, instead of trying to sit there and do something that we know we're not going to do, which is spend $3, $4, $5, and $6,000 more. Because as we said a minute ago, not very smart with our money. That makes more sense now, doesn't it? That makes more sense.
It definitely does. It's just still a lot of it's just definitely makes sense. It's still just a lot of interest to pay over the time. I mean, it's just hard. We have kind of a, we made a commitment to each other. We weren't going to carry a lot of debt, so.
It's a slippery slope with debts.
No, it is. It's also a slippery slope to continue to live with the condition that you have in your home that's going to get worse. So we just have to kind of pick our poison here is basically the direction I would go down this road. And if I can't do all of that and still get them to move on it, then I don't get them to move on it. I walk away, but that's what I would sit there and do, is walk them through that. What we have to do is you have to walk the customer through the pain points that they have. You have to reestablish the commitments that you got from them. Replacing someday. Condition to exist is costing them money. They got to do something sooner rather than later. This is the window they want. They're not going to spend more. A person that's talking about being smart with their money this is all bullshit. That's why we call them out on it. Not very smart with your money to spend $3,000, $4,000 more. That's not smart, is it? So you get that commitment from them. No, it's not smart. Right. I agree. So sometimes we have to do the things we don't want to do to get the things that we need, and the smarter way for us to go. In this case, here's the way to go. You're going to get those people. Well, Don Cardone says, well, piss on Don Cardone. If Don Cardone needed something bad enough because he felt he needed it that bad, he would certainly make a payment on the damn thing to go ahead and get it. Don Cardone is not saying go without. That's not what he's saying. My kid needs a brain operation. Can't pay cash for it. He's screwed. I'll just make another kid. Okay. Give me a break. And Don Cardone is not in the same position that you're in. So you just have to kind of walk the customer through the pain points and reestablish the commitments that you got. Okay. Everything is commitments, guys. Everything. You notice before I start volunteering anything, I start getting commitments and closing doors first. Commitments, closing doors first. And very little do you ever hear me talk about the product. Very little. Only one product issue comes up. Well, this other window has this. Your commitments is where you're going to go back to. Close the doors here and there and just filter things down. Again, it does take time. It's taken me a long time to learn how to do this. Okay. And through this, you guys will learn and pick up more and more each month, each week, whatever it is. You guys will learn more. But commitments is where you want to get, and get these commitments first. So in this case here, again, one more time, I don't like to incur debt. Don Cardone says this. We're smart with our money. We're this, we're this, we're this, we're this, we're this. Okay, that's all fine and dandy. I get it. But the bottom line is though, let me ask you this. So I would sit there and find out from there, how smart are they with their money? I keep clean credit. I have this, which for a person that doesn't make any payments, I don't understand why their credit matters to them anyway. So I've always thought that was odd when a customer would tell me that we got great credit. Well, what difference does it make if you got bad credit? You don't finance anything anyway. So what do you care? Doesn't make any sense if they're not going to finance it. I got good credit that I never use. I got good credit that I never use. Yep, that works. So we just have to start closing doors a little at a time and then work our way through the presentation and go through your commitments. That's your best way, as opposed to trying to use product and talk your way through it.
No, Terry, maybe
Does that help?
No, that's, I think, really good. Maybe the one other thing to show that we really didn't do is kind of the backing down on the payments where, you know, you say 250 and we're like, yeah, we could probably swing 250, ask 275, and we're like, hell no, 275 doesn't work. So you're kind of backing down a little bit. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. So here's the thing, guys. This information here is for me. Can I erase this so I can take some confusion off the board?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I feel like I'm back in school getting into trouble doing this shit.
Oh, you didn't have dry erase boards when you were in school. You have probably started with chisels.
Yeah.
And then you eventually got to chalkboards. You were probably the naughty kid that was having to like clean the, you know, erasers. Yeah.
You notice the form?
You've done a lot.
That's how you get forearms like that. Okay, so look, when I get a payment from somebody, okay, I don't care what it is. Let's just say I start out at $500. The funny thing is, whatever payment you start out at, when you ask somebody what payment fits in their budget, almost every single time, it's going to be half. Almost every single time. When you ask a customer, so what would fit in your budget? Typically the answer is, oh, yeah, well, it'd have to be half of that. Almost every time. Why is that? Well, because in the customer's mind, the only way to cut this in half is to lower the price of the product by half. They don't know that we can lower interest and extend terms. They have no idea here. So when a customer says half and I get a number, I then bump that number $25. That's it, $25. So what if we were closer to 275? Would that work?
No.
If my customer is telling me no way, if my customer is telling me, woo, that would be tight, then I can promise you this right now. This does not work. Period. It does not work no matter what you think. No matter what. Because if a customer cannot afford a less than $1 a day more, then they can't afford that. So I know this number is not real. I know it's not real, and I know it. So now what I've got to figure out to do is which plan can I get that's going to be lower than this or substantially lower, which is the reason why you guys have to memorize what your payment factors are on all of your plans so you can do math in your head or go to a quick calculator to figure crap out right away. Okay. So I know that this is no longer real, even though you told me it fits, because you can't afford more than less than $1 a day more, then this doesn't work. So now in the scenario you saw earlier, I now come in at $202. Now I'm more likely to take away his excuse that once I get here that they have to still think about it. And then I can hold him to it if everything you told me is on the straight up and up. If it is, then obviously the $202 fits in the budget because that's well below the $250 you were budgeting for. So whose name are we going to put this in? Obviously this has to be because this is what you said. That's the reason why you bump 25 bucks. You want to find out if the number you're getting is real or not. No to this means this doesn't work.
You just pull the things, yeah.
If they say 275 works, yep, 275 will work. Well, let me ask you, what if it was closer to 300? 300 starting to get kind of tight. Then chances are in this neighborhood here, you're probably more of an honest number now. You probably are. But for any of you veteran SSPs here, I have to assume that you have been in houses where you put a payment in front of somebody where they said this is where they need to be. And then when you get there, all of a sudden you get these funny answers like, okay, well, you know what? That's a lot better. Yeah, let us think about this now and all this other bullcrap. Well, that's because they didn't think you could get there. That's number one. And number two, we probably didn't get the commitment. We probably didn't first. So, like we did the scenario of the 12,000. So if we were at the 12, would we be getting together on this order while I was here? Payment of 250. If we were at 250, we'd be able to get together on this order while I'm here. Got to get the commitment. Yeah, Mark.
So are you saying that if we get to a place where, let's say we start out and you say, well, you know, how does 275 sound? And you say, yeah, maybe that may work. Or you say, I don't know, that might not work. And then you say, well, how does 300 sound? You kind of go through that whole side of it, and none of those options are really working, and 250 feels really iffy. But the only way to go beyond that lower is to do that 180-month deal. Are you saying that that's no longer an option on the table for us?
7.9% for 180 is.
6.9 is what it shows up as in Greenstein. 6.9, 180.
7.9 for 180. That's what's supposed to be on your guys' stuff already. If not, then I'll get a hold of Heather. But 6.9 for 180 is not there anymore. It's supposed to be 7.9 for 180, and 18 months, 0 interest with 0 payments is no longer there.
Okay.
Okay.
But we can go further down on that one if we need to, if we have to.
Yeah, so 7.9 for 180. Payment factor on it's not going to be much different than 6.9 is. I mean, you're still looking at a payment factor of under 1%, you know? So
If you,
that being
if you want to get with Heather, the two plans in there that are the kind of longer ones is 7.9 for 84 and 6.9 for 120, and then 7.9 for 180. So that is in there, the 7.9 for.
Yeah, I see it there now. Yeah, it's there.
Yeah. 7.9 for 180. So again, you just want to ask, you just want to make sure you ask the question right, Mark. You know, the way we want to ask this question is, you know, we're at 500. Let me ask you, what fits in your budget that doesn't take bread and butter off the table? What fits? 250. We don't want to sit there and say words like, does 250 sound good? What about if we were around? We don't want to sound like a carnival barker either. Okay, we don't want to be carnival barkers. Okay, so the correct language to use is what fits in your budget that doesn't take bread and butter off the table. Remember earlier when we were talking, one of the things that you said is you're looking for something that's affordable, that you're going to get the most bang for your buck, and is not going to put you in the window poorhouse. Remember, guys, that's part of our CPA. Okay, so what fits in your budget that's not going to put you in the window poorhouse? 250. Okay, 250. Let me ask you this. If it was a tad closer to say 275, would that still be able to fit in your budget? We don't want to say, you know, well, how does 275 sound? Now you sound like a carnival barker. We don't want to be carnival barkers here. Okay. Yep, 275 fits for sure. And if it kind of squeezed a little closer to 300, would that still work? Yeah, 300 is a little tight. Can't do that. Okay, cool. Then this is probably going to be an honest answer. However, we also sit there and gave ourselves that if for whatever the reason that payment's going to be in between here, we got that covered too now by asking the question. Okay. Again, we just got to get the commitment. So we get that commitment of here. Yep. So there. So what you're saying is if we were here, we'd be able to move forward on this. Is that what you're telling me? Yes. Good. Now we close the door so we can get going. Okay. But commitments first before you move along. Commitments first. Always commitment first. Always commitment. Going back to the other part where we went from the 14,000 down to the 12,000. Whether you can get there or not doesn't matter. You still got to get the commitment from them. Okay. Well, let me ask you, if we were at 12,000, are you telling me we'd be able to get together on this order? Yes. How would we pay for this? Well, if it was 12,000, I could pay cash. Awesome. Now what we know is we have $12,000 in cash now. Now we can sit there and phase down to 12 grand because they just told us they had 12 G's in cash. So push comes to shove, we know we can get at least 12,000, and now we can hold them to it. Well, obviously, why don't we do this? We'll phase this down. Clearly 12,000 fits in your budget because that's what you said. So we know this fits now, folks. So that's why you get the commitment.
What if when you ask them if the 12,000 works, would we be getting together on this today? What if they're like, well, I mean, not necessarily. Where do you go from there?
Okay, well, if we were at the 12,000 you were hoping for, and we wouldn't be able to start that partnership today because you're saying not necessarily, sir, I would be a little confused. I guess I sort of, maybe kind of, sort of, you know what? I don't even really kind of get it. I got to have to ask you this then, sir. What would keeping you from moving forward if we got to the number where you wanted to be, sir?
I guess the only answer there is probably going to be that we don't make one-day decisions, which we've already talked about that. We're tracking going down that path too.
Sure.
So,
You know, no's a one-day decision too.
I have a question, Terry. So one of the things that I've done a handful of times, and it worked pretty good when I give somebody a price, because Apex in the past would be like, we don't price drop, we're gonna leave with the best price possible. It is what it is. And then I show them a price, it's like 13.7, and they're like, look, we had a hard line at 12. If you could do it for 12, then we're in, And so one of the things that I did a couple of times was like pre-issuing them the referral bonuses. And I'd be like, well, hey, folks, I'm confident, if you guys do the project with us, you're gonna have a phenomenal experience. You're gonna love the windows, you're gonna be talking about them, the neighbors are gonna see them, they're gonna be jealous. I know we're gonna get more business in here. What if I pre-issue the first 3 referral bonuses that you're gonna get, and I build that into the front side, does that make sense? We'd be under the limit, would we be able to get together on this order today? And that's worked out good. And then it actually was nice because I had a few referrals and I didn't even have to pay them out a referral bonus on it too. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, again, I'm always going to be for anything that you can do that's that way. Plus referrals anyhow. So you can do it for sure. I've done it before. I'm going to prepay for this. We pay $250 a piece up to 4. I'll give you your 4 up front, which is $1,000 off. I don't have a problem with it. I think as long as you deliver it right, it works.
Part of the call, the MSP, that could be
Right.
like, hey, Mr. Blaylock said is, because you said you're confident we're gonna get this business in here, and I trust you, he trusts me, like he approved me to be able to pre-issue you your first 3 or first 4 referral bonuses. And then you could also get them to be like, hey, while we're here, who could you introduce me to? Any neighbors that you're friends with? Could you maybe just introduce me to them? Could you give me some names and numbers or something like that? I think that would be a good way to be able to justify the lower price too without sounding car salesman-y and confident that, they're gonna have a good experience.
You could go that route as well. The thing is, I like the word track. I would probably do it just a smidge different on that deal to try to make it as more official, so to speak. It would be, you make that phone call. Hey, look, Mr. Plessis or like whatever, whoever your MSP is, check this out. Want to run something by you here real quick. We're going to do this and do this and do this with the referral bonus, blah, 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 blah. Okay. I would then turn around and say, okay, all right, we can, you know what? Give me a quick second. Let me ask him right now. Hey, Mr. Blaylock, check this out. We can go ahead and do what I was telling you we could do, but it comes with a condition, sir. The condition is, number 1, we're going to go ahead and put that in our contract. And what we're going to do is we're going to need 4 referrals from you within 30 days after the date of installation. We're going to come back and see you. So you have the opportunity to sit there and live with the product for the first 30 days to make sure that it did all the things we said it would do, shy of stopping bullets, right? And if it does all of that, sir, then we're going to go ahead and come back and get that in, and we're going to put that in your contract. Are you okay with that, sir? Will that make sense for you to do it that way? This way you can hold them to it so you can go back and get the referral. Make it, if you're going to do that, make it part of your contract that the customer has to give you the referral, not whenever we're going to do this whenever. Look, piss on that. For $1,000, they get to go to work a little bit. That's why we're paying them $1,000. That's why we're taking the price off or cost off the price. Okay. I would do it that way, Cody. If you're going to go down that route, make sure that they have to do it, not when they do it, but they have to 30 days or 60 days, whatever number you want to use. I've always used 30 days after the date of installation. If you want to use 60 days after the date of installation, you can go ahead and do that. That's up to you. But that's the only difference I would be in the word track is make them so they have to do it and put it in your contract. Put it in your notes. Make sure that they have to do it.
I like it.
Okay. Questions?
I do have one question, Terry.
Talk to me, Mia.
So let's say when you show them the pricing right there in the beginning, that the 9.99%.
Hold on, I got a
And
rep
you're-
in the house. Hold on. Yeah. Okay.
We gotta go with you. Yeah.
Send Ashley Sadler a email, copy me on it, saying what's going on with that. What Miss Lopez is saying. Okay, all right, bye. Anyway, sorry about that, Miss Ari. Ask your question, Mijita.
Let's say when you're talking about the financing, when you present the numbers, and right away they shut down the financing or they say something like, "Oh yeah, we're definitely not doing that." And they go and maybe ask, "Okay, can we get back to you tomorrow?" And they don't dive in, they don't give you room to dive into other financing options. How would you try to still go back to the finance?
Well, so here's the thing. Look, God's honest truth, not everybody will finance, for sure. Not everybody will. You know, we can come up with all the fancy sayings and things like that. Some people just are not going to finance, and I understand that. Okay. Then financing is not for those particular people. As long as what we don't do is we take the stance that everybody is that way, that's the part that's BS. So you have to put the payment in front of them. When you put it in, say, well, look, we're not even going to look at payments. I get that. So obviously we're looking into a cash option then, obviously, right? Yes, cool. Then we're going to work everything the same way. So let me ask you this, fair and honest, does the 30% fit in the budget at that point in time? If they want to think about it, then we're going to have to go down the think about it conversation. Well, out of curiosity, what is exactly are we needing to go ahead and think about? What can I help with? Think out loud. Because if we're talking about windows and we want to know about windows, then the window man's who you need to talk to, or the window lady or the window woman, whatever you want to say, however you want to deliver that, you know, I'm here. So what are we talking about? Or, you know, is this more money you're prepared to spend, whatever it may be? You have to kind of read the room at that moment when it comes up and then figure out where that is. But somebody says they want to think about it. What exactly are they wanting to think about? I mean, the operative word is think. Good. Then what are we thinking about? What can I help with? You know?
Yeah, but I still want to go and talk about the financing because maybe they would want to do that. I'm trying to figure out how I would go back to finalize the financing options. You know, I still want to go over those things. I don't want to stop at the 9.9.
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. So if you're getting that, hey, look, no way, cash, then we've got to figure out, okay, look, cash, is this going to fit? Do you have the cash to be able to do this? You know? Well, that's what we have to talk about. We have to look at our financing. We're not sure. Okay, well, folks, if you can't say yes or no on the spot, then you already know the answer to it. So that being said, look, check this out. I know that this is not your best. This is not the number one thing you want to do, right? But again, sometimes due to the imperfections of the world, sometimes we just have to do the things we don't want to do to get things we need, right? In this case, what we know we need is windows. So look, just bear with me for a few minutes if you don't mind, folks. At the very least, just indulge me and no, maybe I can just go ahead and surprise you with something. But check this out. Here's what my thoughts are. Are you open to suggestion? One of the best questions to ask is, are you open to suggestion? It takes a certain kind of a grade A, stamped on both sides, certified asshole to say no to that question. I mean, hell, Napoleon would probably say yes to that question still, and he was a prick. The kind of person it takes to say no to that is unbelievable, right? So you hit him with that. Look, are you open to suggesting it? Well, look, check this out. Let me just show you something, and then go right into it. Nobody gets kicked out. If any rep were to call me up and say, well, Terry, I tried that and they kicked me out of the house, I am going to call you a liar, something fierce, because I have never in my life seen that, ever, by any rep, by myself or anybody that got kicked out of a house for that. So the first person that tells me that, I will truly sit there and say you're lying, because I've never seen it in 37 years, ever. So that's what I would do, Miha. I would still be able to go down there. So they say, look, check this out. Are you open to suggestion? Look, let me show you something. I know this isn't the best thing in the world, but look, just watch this. Let me just show you. And then go right through to it. Go into it. If that's what you have to do, especially if they don't have the cash to pay for it anyway. The thing that we have to let a customer know is, look, these are the choices a customer has. Option A is to do nothing at all. That's option A, to do nothing, which is probably the worst choice for them to make. Good, bad, or indifferent, folks, you have to do something. You should do something, because the worst mistake you can make is to do nothing at all and continue to live with the condition that you have. Option B is to put in an inferior product on your home. There's option B. Now, don't get me wrong, Mr. and Mrs. Customer. A lot of people put an inferior product on their home for the sake of price, and they'll use price as an excuse for the decision that they make, because that makes them sleep better at night. And that's fine for those people that are that way. I certainly wouldn't put an inferior product on my home, especially for as much as I paid for mine. Again, the largest investment, blah, 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 blah. But it is the second option that you have. Or option number 3 is to get the product that you deserve and want and need to have. And to do that, this is what it's going to be. So we just got to figure out how to fit this in our budget that makes us make sense. And at the very least, we need to at least get started. Okay. When we get down into the close, all these little questions that we asked are going to come back. Remember when we asked the question, how long have you lived here, or how long have you thought about replacing your windows? Guy sits there and says, maybe they say it's 3 years. Now, when we're down into the close, now we can sit there and say something like along these lines. Look, the other thing, folks, is look at this. Look, I've learned a couple things while I've been in this industry. I've learned a few things. Number 1, if you don't at least get started, you're not going to. Case in point, look at your procrastination, for the lack of a better way to put this. You've been wanting to replace your windows now for the last 3 years. You got 15 windows on the house right now. You know, if you would have just replaced 3 windows a year for the last 3 years, that would be 9 windows. Today, we'd only be talking about 6 windows. And the heartburn you're feeling would be nothing near what you're feeling right now, if you'd at least done that. The second thing that I've learned is nobody spends X amount of dollars more tomorrow when they could have saved it today. Nobody does that. That's absolute insanity. Nobody does that. Even a millionaire doesn't do that. That doesn't make any sense. So if we don't at least do one of these two, if you're not looking at something like that, then in the end, what you're going to be stuck with is options A or B. So the question I have on the table for you is, where does that now put us, now that we look at it that way? Where does that put us? That's why we ask those questions. Everything we ask, there's a reason for it, and we will use it. Make no mistake about it. No matter how stupid the question sounded when we asked it back then, we'll all come back now. How long have you lived here? How long have you thought about replacing windows? You think we can get more work in the neighborhood someday if we were to do work in your neighborhood, or here in your home? For the most part, it sounds, who cares about asking that? Now I can hold them to it now, and I can use all of that now. That's why we ask. So that's the direction, Ari, I would go, something along those lines, is that. Sometimes you just have to push it and throw it in there. But these people that don't have the cash for it, but they refuse to finance, we have to have a better talk with them. And that talk has to be something along the lines, again, of, imperfections of the world. Sometimes we got to do the things we don't want to do to get things that we need, not want. The word here is not want, it's need. I want a new car versus I need a new car is two different animals altogether. So the word track we use here is need. We need windows here. We should not be living with this condition anymore. Does that help, Ari?
Yes, thank you.
What else, guys? Lots to absorb. So we're going to cover a lot of this and slow things down, but I at least wanted to get this in front of you over the next several days, because there is a lot of scenarios we can go through and a lot of things that we can do in this. There is a lot. Okay. What I'm hoping that everybody will get out of this, though, is the understanding that we don't have to defend the product. Okay. When we get to selling and we get to running in some of these tough situations, we can't defend product. Your best bet is to get back into the pitch and use their answers against them. Bless you. And use their answers, because the moment you start defending product, then you take a defensive posture. And the moment you take a defensive posture, you'll typically put your customer in a defensive position. And what we don't want them is to be defensive. So there's no need to defend our product unless the product itself is what's being attacked. Then that's a different story. Okay. But typically going back through your commitments is the way to go. So again, what questions? Salt Lake, what questions do we have so far out there?
I don't have any. It all makes perfect sense to me. I'm so excited to sell windows at this price that you can't believe it. So I'm sitting there thinking I'm going to start everything off with 50% margin.
Where I would be, bro, just so you know. So, Mark, any questions out there in DFW, dude?
No questions, really. More just there's so many really good word tracks. I'm trying to just, in my mind, visualize. I mean, you've seen how I do the door pitch from a visualization perspective on the board here, but just trying to visualize how I can train on this in a way. I mean, Cody, you used that, what was it called? Whatever that software was, that website drove me nuts to use it. But it was like you had the word track, you got the yes versus the no, and then it took you down different word tracks. I mean, I'm like literally looking at my wall, like, can I just put Post-its all over my wall for these different word tracks? It's all good and all makes sense. Just memorizing those word tracks and then really understanding the nuance of how to use them is kind of where my mind's at right now.
First, what I would sit there and stop you there is this. I would sit there and tell you, number one, let's forget word tracks and rebuttals and things like that. Let's make sure, number one, the most important thing to know here is the presentation itself. If you can't sit there and rattle the presentation off itself, all that other stuff, not going to help as much. Again, before you can become 3 years old, you got to be 2, right? So we've got to be able to get through that part of it first. Can we sit there and do steps 1 through 7? Memorize that. Let's make sure that we're there and we're proficient with that, because that makes then using, rebuttals and word tracks for that makes it a lot easier. When you're trying to memorize it all at one time or get more proficient without that, shit, man, that's a killer. That's hard for anybody to do. I don't care who you are. That's tough to do. I mean, that's hard. So get that part of it out of the way first. Is that, and then again, because there is a lot of word track and a lot of stuff I can throw at you. But the stuff that we want to start out with, the very simple 2 or 3 things that we normally hear more often than not when we're in a house. Shop, talk to somebody, think about. Those are the 3 number 1 things that we're going to hear. So deal with those word tracks for that only for right now. And along with the learning the 10 steps, you know, that's what I would sit there and tell everybody. Don't try to do everything at one time though. You know, that's hard. Salt Lake, oh, not Salt Lake. I'm sorry. Seattle, questions out there?
So far, so good, just taking it all in.
Portland,
I
Take
don't
it
think
all
we
in.
have any. Do you guys?
Yeah. I mean, if you ask me to do that right now, I can't, but you know.
no,
You and me
Okay.
both, don't worry.
so again, tomorrow we'll work some more. This is one of these things, MSPs, that we want to get and literally start breaking down in the groups on price presentation and, you know, pitch in front of everybody here, that type of thing. Most of this stuff is going to be, should be fairly easy for most of you. It's just the little changes that'll make you a little uncomfortable that you'll have to get around a bit and navigate through. But this part of price presentation is certainly different than Apex's way for sure. And what you guys are used to at Apex. Here's what I would sit there and tell you. Look, you can always do what you've always done with Apex. You can. You can always do that. The challenge with doing that, though, is your margins are just going to be way lower. First and foremost, they're just going to be. And I just think that's a crime to sell that way. I just think it's just such an absolute crime when half the houses that you guys have sold windows at, you could have been at 10 and 12% higher margin and still would have sold it. You still would have. And I would bet money on a minimum of half of the jobs that you all have sold that you could have sold for 10 and 12% more margin. At least that. At least that.
Dude, I had a job and I showed them with the Apex style and we showed them like, you know, the fair market value on there and all the numbers, and I went down and I showed them the promo price and they were like, yeah, all right, let's do it. And they were filling out the contract and he looks at me, he goes, just so you know, man, before you wrote that down, I thought that number up at the top was the promo price and I was already gonna say yes to that. And it was like 75,000 and I think I ended up writing it up for like 37,000 or something like that. And I was like, yes, it was. Oh, and I was so like, I was in the car on the way home. He goes, I would have been happy to pay that. And I was like, fuck, on the way home. It just hurt. It stung. Still think about it.
Well, again, you're going to hear me keep saying this. We're great about showing, you know, we're gangster about it, about how much more expensive other companies are selling for. And keep in mind, they are selling for those prices too. And they're selling more volume and more windows than Apex does, despite our nice price.
Yeah.
So what does that tell you? You know, what's that tell you? So I will always sit there and say that you guys deserve better. I will always say that. I will always say that.
That's, oh, the one that I had? Oh, my gosh.
So, all right, guys, I'm going to let you get out of here. Seattle, I know you guys have that home show that started today. So crush that sumbitch. I hope you guys do good out there with that. I asked Kate to take some pictures of a couple things out there, a couple of other booths. So if you guys, while you're out there, Miss Ari, can you make sure that happens? just in case gets tied up and forgets.
Will do.
Okay. Have a good show. Call me if you guys need me. But you should be getting that banner by tomorrow, Miss Ari. I had it sent to your house.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. Yeah, Kate gave me your address, so I had it sent there. I didn't want to send it to the woods where she is and some damn grizzly bear or something takes the damn thing and walks off with it. You know, some bobcat or something makes a bed out of it. Anyway, thanks guys for everything. Do me a favor, Mark, real quick.
Yeah.
Cam, where are you at?
He just stepped out for a second.
Okay. Did he go to the restroom? You should probably help him. Maybe he needs help in there, bro.
Hey, I didn't know that was in the job title.
Oh, he didn't tell you about that one?
He didn't tell me that one. That's a little hidden gem, I guess.
It is. So I need a favor here real quick. I'm going to need all my MSPs. Do me a favor and let's clear the room for a quick second so I can have a maybe 10-minute conversation with my MSPs before I go real quick, if you don't mind.
Harry, hang on just a minute.
Let me turn off the recording on this.
I was gonna say, just leave the recording on.
Yeah, right?